transmigrated into a world where only the strong reign supreme with an ability that is classified as useless, Khal Dragul must raise to the occasion and prove all those that underestimated him wrong. And the only way he can do that is by adapting. The classroom buzzed with murmurs. Students chatted amongst themselves as the teacher continued his lecture, undeterred by the noise. The room was spacious, holding around 70 students, all dressed in identical uniforms. Light green jackets, matching ties, crisp white dress shirts, and gray dress pants. The only difference was that the girls wore skirts instead. In the middle of the classroom, a student sat slumped over his desk, his body trembling slightly. His dark hair clung to his forehead, damp with sweat. His crimson-red eyes twitched beneath his closed lids as he shook in his sleep. A voice called out, distant at first, "Mr. Khal." It echoed in his mind, firm yet muffled. "Mr. Khal." The voice grew louder, breaking through the haze. "Mr. Khal." Khal jolted awake, his breath ragged, eyes darting around the now silent classroom. Dozens of pairs of eyes locked onto him, curiosity and amusement flickering in their gazes. "Sir, Khal, I was asking you a question," the teacher said, his tone even yet firm. He was an elderly man with glasses, his sharp gaze peering over the rim as he observed Khal. Khal exhaled deeply, forcing himself to steady his breathing. "Apologies, sir. I didn't quite catch that. Could you repeat the question?" The teacher adjusted his glasses. "I asked, what year did the Great Tearing occur?" Khal's expression darkened. He sat up straight, his voice clear and precise. "The Great Tearing occurred on January 1st, 2039. That was exactly 2,289 years, 8 months, and 17 days ago, marking the date the world as we knew it would change forever." The teacher smiled, nodding in approval. "As sharp as ever, Mr. Khal. Well done. But in the future, kindly refrain from napping in my class." A few students chuckled quietly, and Khal simply nodded, sinking back into his seat. The Great Tearing. It had been nearly 2,290 years since the world as we knew it had ceased to exist. Once, humanity thrived on modern technology and industrial weapons. Then came the tearing. Reality, as we knew it, shattered. Rifts, known as tears, began forming all over the planet. Space had become inaccessible, and the Earth's radius expanded hundreds of times further, isolating many countries from the outside world. What was initially seen as an unknown disaster quickly turned into an extinction-level nightmare. From within the tears, creatures emerged. Monsters, horrors beyond human comprehension. Weapons of the old world were useless, and with no way to escape the chaos. Cities burned, nations crumbled, billions died. Humanity was on the brink of annihilation. And then, the system appeared, a mysterious interface, granting select individuals the power to fight back. These groups of people were called the Awakened. The Awakened were humanity's last hope. With abilities beyond human comprehension, they turned the tide of war, reclaiming territories that had been lost. Khal clenched his fist. "I wasn't originally from this world. My previous world was rather identical to this world. Somehow, I transmigrated into this one, reverting back to infancy. For the past 18 years, I've lived here, retaining memories of my old life." Ring, ring, ring. The school bell echoed through the halls. The teacher smiled at the class. "All right, everyone. This will be the last time I will be seeing you in my classroom. I hope each of you receives the blessing you desire. Now, please stand and proceed in an orderly fashion to the auditorium." Chairs scraped against the floor as students rose from their seats. Excitement buzzed in the air, their whispered conversations filled with nervousness. "Man, I hope I get a combat blessing. At least a complexity rating of D grade," a student muttered. "Same, another sighed. If I don't unlock a decent combat blessing, my family's doomed." They invested so much money into preparations for my awakening. Khal walked silently among them, his mind elsewhere. As they entered the auditorium, the massive space was already packed with students. At the center stood an elevated oval platform, and at its center, a towering golden crystal. Beside it stood a priest, his robes pristine, his expression unreadable as he gazed down at the gathered students. Thud! Khal felt a jab at the back of his head, followed by an arm slinging casually over his shoulders. Yo, why so serious, man? A voice teased. You know, it wouldn't kill you to smile once in a while. Khal glanced over at the boy beside him and sighed. Nice to see you too, Jiang. Jiang grinned before rubbing his knuckles against his head. Where have you been, man? I haven't seen you in days. I even came by your house a few times, and they said you were busy. Khal pulled away, calmly fixing his now messy hair. Been studying a lot lately. Also, my family really hates when you come over, so do me a favor and stop giving them fuel to hate me too. Jiang chuckled, placing his hands on his hips before letting out an exaggerated sigh. Yeah, those guys can't stand me. But whatever, you're not getting rid of me that easily. His frustration vanished as quickly as it came, replaced by a wild grin. Anyway, I'm so pumped right now. I can finally awaken my blessing, he shouted, bouncing on his feet, throwing a few shadow punches, a few students staring at him, laughing. Hey, stop. You're making a fool of your... May I have your attention, please? A voice echoed through the auditorium, cutting Khal off. The entire room fell silent as all eyes turned to the stage. Standing at the podium was a tall, well-built man with sharp features and neatly combed gray hair. Holding a microphone, his presence alone commanded attention. Good evening, he began. As you all know, I am Principal Liu, and today is the day of your awakening. His voice was steady, authoritative. I'm not one to waste time, and I know most of you are eager to see your results. So let's get straight to it. A wave of anticipation rippled through the students. The selection process is randomized. Principal Liu continued. When your name is called, step onto the stage and place your palm on the salvation orb. The orb will trigger the dormant mana within you that can now be accessed without causing any harm to your body, allowing you to awaken your blessing and giving you access to the system. The priest will then analyze the complexity of your blessing with his skill and grade it appropriately. Blessings are graded FDC, B, A, S, SS, and Divine, with F being the lowest and Divine being the highest. Awakening a blessing, B grade or above, will guarantee you placement in a college, even without taking the college placement exams. The tension in the room thickened. Some students were sweating profusely. Others whispered prayers under their breath. Now, then, Principal Liu took a step back, releasing a bright yellow aura around his body. Without further ado, let the awakening begin. Yeah, the students erupted into cheers as Principal Liu stepped off the stage. One by one, students ascended to the platform, each placing their palm on the salvation orb. Blessing, minor increased grass growth. Complexity F. The priest's voice echoed through the auditorium. Thank God, why me? Why me, God? The devastated student wailed as he was dragged off the stage by school security, his cries of despair lingering in the air. Jiang flinched. Damn, man, that's brutal. He bit down on his fingernails, anxiety creeping into his voice. I really hope I get something good. I need to get into a good college, man. Khal, however, remained calm, his arms crossed as he watched the ceremony unfold. Most students are awakening F to C grade blessings. Not surprising. Obtaining a high-complexity blessing is incredibly difficult, entirely dependent on luck. The nature of a blessing wasn't just about uniqueness. It was about potential. Each blessing was unique to the user, and only after the previous user died could said blessing be awakened by another, but that alone didn't make it powerful or useful. They were graded based on two things. Description complexity. Lower-ranked blessings had simple descriptions, while higher-ranked ones were far more intricate, outlining multiple abilities or future abilities. Future growth. An F-grade blessing would only ever grant a single ability, but an S-grade blessing could have 30 or more future abilities, and that's just separating the unique abilities. The stage rotated through names. Serene Azual, a beautiful girl with long, light blue hair and silver eyes, made her way to the podium, a serious expression on her face as she stepped forward onto the stage, placing her hand onto the orb. Whoosh! A surge of golden energy erupted from her body, flooding the auditorium in radiant light. Students shielded their eyes as wind whipped through their uniforms. The teachers, however, only smiled impressed. Then, the energy shifted. It formed a shape. A winged horse, glowing majestically, took shape from the golden aura, galloping around Serene in a dazzling display before finally dispersing into specks of light. A heavy silence followed. The priest smiled. Blessing, Pegasus Knight. Complexity S. YHHH. Cheering came from the crowd of students, as expected from the young miss of the Azul family. A student cheered. Though it's not the ice or water element that the Azul family specializes in, it's still an S-grade blessing, said another. Jiang grinned, slinging his arm around Khal's shoulder. Dude, an S-grade blessing. That's crazy. Let's go talk to Serene. Maybe some of her luck can rub off on us. Khal folded his arms, sighed, eyeing Jiang. You already know my family and hers don't get along. We haven't spoken in years. It wouldn't be appropriate, and that girl hates me. Jiang sighed, shaking his head. Man, you could be such a buzzkill. Before Khal could respond, all right, everyone calm down. The principal's voice cut through the noise. The students fell silent. After a brief pause, the principal nodded and sat back down. Then the announcer spoke. Khal Dragul. A murmur spread through the room. Jiang clapped Khal on the back, pushing him forward. That's you, man. Get up there. Khal glanced back. Jiang gave him a big smile and a confident thumbs up. As he walked toward the stage, whispers filled the air. First the young miss of the Azual family, and now the young master of the Dragul family. He's definitely getting an S grade. Probably even SS. Yeah, he's ranked at the top of the school in academics, too. Test scores don't determine your blessing. But still, it's the Dragul family. There's no way he gets anything lower than S. Khal ignored the voices. He stepped onto the stage, standing in front of the massive golden crystal. Taking a deep breath, he reached out and placed his palm on the orb. Nothing happened. For a long, excruciating second, the room was completely still. Then, WOOPSSHHH. A dark red energy exploded from Khal like a raging storm, shattering the ceiling. A violent shockwave blasted through the auditorium, hurling students back. Protect the kids, the principal shouted. A teacher immediately stood, raising her hands. Protect those around me. Barrier field. A massive shield expanded across the auditorium, sealing off the stage. The wild energy continued to swirl, an overwhelming force pressing down on everyone. And then, in the eye of the storm, she appeared. A woman in a flowing red dress descended from the energy. Ethereal, otherworldly. Her presence alone was suffocating. Khal looked up at her, a sense of warmth and familiarity flooding his body. She leaned forward, pressing a gentle kiss to Khal's forehead. Then she vanished, and the storm ended. The room was wrecked. Students lay scattered across the floor, dazed. The teachers stood frozen, faces pale. At the center of it all, the priest trembled, struggling to regain his composure as he read Khal's ability description. His hands trembled. Well, what is it? The principal roared. The priest licked his lips, his voice barely above a whisper. Blessing, adapt. A pause. The audience held their breath. Then, complexity, F. Shax heaven. The room was left speechless. Everyone stood in shock, looking at Khal, who had a somewhat nervous expression on his face as he looked up. Principal Liu started to walk over to the priest, his expression clearly furious. We're not here to joke around, High Priest. I asked what grade the blessing he awakened was, not for you to stand there and make a fool of yourself. The priest started to frantically move his hands, sweat pouring down his face. Principal Liu, I take my job very seriously, and my grade blessing status window inspect is never wrong. He continued. The only thing his blessing description reads is endless adaptation. And the only skill it possesses is a passive skill called adaptation. Not to mention his initial stats are all below 8. Khal stood frozen, thoughts racing. F grade? Where did he get that from? Name: Khal Dragul Adaptation History Level 0 Max Adaptation Mastery LVL 1 0%. Blessing: Adapt. Details: Adaptive points 10 abilities. Adaptation: Passive. Inventory: It doesn't seem that he can read the full details of my status window. The system hasn't even graded my blessing. Another system window popped up. Surprising call. Congratulations to the host for awakening the adaptive system. Please wait a few minutes for the system to fully link to the host. As I thought, my system seems to be different from everyone else's. What's truly bothering me is that level 0 cap. Everyone starts at level 1. Is this trying to tell me I can't level up? And where the hell is my stats tab? Murmurs rippled through the auditorium. What? No way his blessing is F grade. Only grade A and higher blessings can trigger a divine effect. Well, not exactly, another student whispered. A divine effect can happen under 2 conditions: if the blessing itself is of a high grade, or if the individual has extraordinary talent. It looks like Khal's was talent-based, though it seems like his luck ran out, and he awakened trash. The murmurs grew louder. Khal turned to face the crowd. The admiration in their eyes had now been replaced with pity. Contempt. Khal. Principal Lu called. Here's the thing, Mr. Khal. Although you triggered a divine effect during your awakening, it seems that it was due to your talent. And while your ability sounds impressive, since the dawn of the awakened, there has never been a powerful blessing with such a short description and lack of skills. Lu sighed, shaking his head. I hope you understand. My hands are tied here, and I'm afraid I cannot be of help. TCH. Khal clicked his tongue. These idiots only see things one way. If the blessing's description isn't lengthy, they assume you're doomed to fail. Even the system treats it this way. Think nothing of it. Khal shoved his hands into his pockets and walked toward the exit stairs, his expression frustrated. Not me. Just wait. I'll show you all. Mr. Khal, wait a second. Principal Lu called after him. Khal ignored him, pushing past the crowd. The students moved aside, parting as though he carried a disease. So what if he's the young master of the Dragul family? He's just trash now. A student whispered. This is a slap in the face to the Draguls. Who would have thought their talented young master would become a waste? Laughter followed, but Khal didn't spare them a glance. He kept walking until he reached the exit, pushing the heavy doors open and letting them slam shut behind him. Outside the school, men and women in sleek suits stood waiting. Guild representatives. College scouts. A few days ago, these guys have been eager to curry favor with me. Now, they're avoiding my gaze. Tisish. Khal clicked his tongue, holding his head down. At the front of the school, an expensive black sports car pulled up. The black tinted window rolled down, revealing a muscular man in dark shades. Get in, Khal, the man voiced, not giving Khal a glance. Khal approached the car, resting his hand on the driver's door. How did my 3rd and 4th brother's awakening go, John? The man said nothing, not even glancing at him. Khal sighed and got into the back seat. The car drove off from the school. Khal leaned his head back, staring up at the ceiling. How long is this going to take? Please wait a few minutes for the system to fully link to the host. John adjusted his rear-view mirror, an arrogant smirk tugging at his lips. So an F-rank blessing, huh? He lifted his hand dramatically. Failure. Young master of the Dragul family. Once a hero, now a 0. Huh? Khal ignored him, his focus locked on the system window. Link complete. The adaptive system has fully integrated with the host. Smiley face, about time. Khal sat up, focusing on the window. Welcome, host, to the adaptive system. The system will now commence the tutorial. Would the host like to enter the tutorial zone? Yes/no. Tutorial, huh? It sounds like if I say yes, it'll move me to a separate space, even if it's only my mind and not my body. I'm not sure how long I'll be gone for, and the dimwit John will notice eventually. Khal lifted his head, looking at Ihan, still ranting in the front seat. Sigh, whatever, FK this guy. Yes. Choose tutorial difficulty, easy, normal, hard. Nightmare, be advised. The difficulty chosen will impact your future progress. Choose wisely. The smart choice would probably be to choose normal or maybe even hard, but I don't exactly always go for the smart choice. Khal stretched his arm out, pressing the window. Nightmare difficulty has been selected. Host shall now be transported to tutorial zone. Bright blue boxes materialized around Khal. One by one, they vanished, taking pieces of him with them. Good luck to the host. You're going to need it. Khal disappeared. Your siblings are going to have a good laugh when they find out about this. Haha. F grade. Jan looked back at the rear-view mirror once again, and Khal was nowhere to be seen. SKRRT. John quickly stopped the car. Hey, come out, kid. This isn't funny. KHEL Khal's body began to reappear in a new environment. As he slowly opened his eyes, he found himself in a dark forest. The trees had blackened bark, and a blood-red moon cast an eerie glow over the land. Welcome, host of the tutorial zone. The tutorial consists of 3 stages. To leave the tutorial, you must complete each stage individually, each more brutal than the last. As the tutorial continues, you will be revealed information regarding yourself and the system. Stage 1. Defeat 15 Greyhound Wolves. Well, that was quite abrupt. I don't have stats. The least you can do is hand me a weapon. Khal argued. No answer came from the system. Sigh, doesn't seem like the system will be giving me any help or a hint on how exactly I'm supposed to do this, so I'll have to rely on myself. Khal started to venture into the forest, grabbing a nearby log he saw along the way. So how exactly am I going to defeat a gray wolf? He thought. If I'm not wrong, gray wolves are typical level 3 monsters that travel in packs. And even though the system never mentioned that I can die in the tutorial, there's no way I can. Khal stopped in his tracks, not moving a muscle, sweat dripping off his forehead, his face flustered. What is that? Khal thought, staring at 2 bright yellow dots looking in his direction from the bushes. Russell, a wolf's head, came out of the bushes, growling, its mouth dripping saliva, its eyes locked on Khal. LVL 5. Greyhound Wolf. I know this is supposed to be extremely difficult, but sending a regular human after a level 5 monster is insanity. Is the system trying to get me killed? Khal slowly started to back away, trying his best to stay calm. Snap! Khal stepped on a twig. Shit! He spoke aloud. Fwoosh! The wolf came charging, jumping towards him, his mouth widening for a bite. Khal swung the log. Grok! Khal was too slow. The beast chomped down on his left arm, blood spilling everywhere. Bam! Khal fell on his backside. Get off me! Khal shouted in pain, punching the wolf with his right arm. It hurts. FK, it hurts so much. Pain resistance adaptation acquired. Adapting to pain +1 IT still hurts. So much. Khal kept punching the wolf. Adapting to pain +1, adapting to pain +1, adapting to pain +1, adapting to pain +1, adapting to pain +1. Get the hell off me. SBLRTCH. Khal sunk his thumb into the wolf's eye socket, crushing its eye. Yelp. The wolf cried, releasing Khal. Khal rolled over on his stomach, using his right arm to drag himself away. It doesn't hurt as much anymore, but it still hurts so much. I need to get out of here. I've never experienced such pain in my life. Grok. The wolf clamped down at the back of Khal's neck, shaking its head, deepening the wound, blood flying everywhere. Adapting to damage. Acquiring a stronger body to negate damage. Muscular strengthening adaptation acquired. It's getting blurry. I'm dying. Muscle strength +1. Khal's vision started to get even blurrier until it went dark. Gasp! Huh! Huff! Huff! What the? Khal jumped up, touching his body all over and looking around. I'm in the same area I was when I entered the tutorial zone. When the host is killed within the tutorial zone, you shall be respawned to the previous spawn point. Only available in Stage 1. Death in other stages is permanent. Huh! Huff! Huff! Alive. That felt so. Flashbacks leading to Khal's death started to replay in his head. Real. Though this is just a simulation, the host had just truly experienced death. My excitement of getting stronger got the best of me. I have no training as a fighter, and I went straight into a fight with no information of what's ahead or plan of attack. Even if that was a level 3 Greyhound Wolf, the outcome would have been the same. Khal sat on the ground, crossing his legs, thinking, his breath still heavy. But I don't exactly have a way to get stronger. Without stats, I can't increase my strength, and I don't want to die again. I don't want to experience that horrible feeling again. Khal grabbed his chest, clenching his jaw. The best thing I can do right now is check my status window and see if there are any changes. Open status window. Name: Khal Dragul. Adaptation history level 0, max. Adaptation mastery LVL 1, 55%. Blessing: adapt. Details: adaptive points 10 abilities. Adaptation passive inventory. Adapted skills. As I thought, my status window changed. When I was fighting that beast, I was receiving multiple notifications. The most noticeable one was the pain resistance notifications. Every time I received a notification about it, the pain, though not by much, became more bearable. Khal scanned through system tabs that were available. It seems like adaptation history is the only tab accessible right now. Click adaptation history. Pain resistance LVL2, 1/20th 1/10, 1 LVL muscle strengthening. Increased resistance to the feeling of pain. Increased muscle density and muscular strength. I'm not sure, but I think I understand a bit more of my ability now. Khal thought. It seems I'm capable of gaining new abilities based on my situation, and it's most likely only immediate danger, considering I was walking through the forest before and I didn't adapt an ability to improve my stamina. The host is partially correct. Adapt, or adaptive evolution, is a unique and unparalleled blessing that grants the user the ability to adapt/reactively evolve in response to any situation. This ability operates in two key forms: passive adaptation and remote situational adaptation. Passive adaptation: the host's body gradually adapts to external stimuli over time. Physical traits may change permanently based on repeated exposure, such as improved muscle efficiency from enduring strain, heightened reflexes from continuous combat, or even regeneration from surviving fatal wounds. Adaptations also can occur outside of danger to prevent oncoming danger, granting the host an ability to counter said danger. Remote situational adaptation. In the face of immediate danger or challenges, the user can temporarily develop abilities suited to counter specific threats. This adaptation falls into three categories: offensive, defensive, and practical. These adaptations consume adaptive points and disappear once the situation is resolved. This form of adaptation can only be accessed with LVL 5 adaptation mastery. I see. So that's why I wasn't giving stats or the ability to level up. I grow stronger through adversity. Khal thought, clenching his fist. In the long run, with a blessing like this, I can become unstoppable. It would have been nice if you told me all of this before I wandered into the forest and, died, or maybe added it into my blessings details instead of just endless adaptation. The system stayed silent, unresponsive. Khal sighed, shaking his head. Khal sat up and observed his surroundings. The wind blowing the trees back and forth in the eerie, abnormal silence the typical forest doesn't give off. The only way I'm going to get stronger is if I'm in danger. It would be foolish to take another route than the one before, since I could possibly encounter even more wolves this time around. Khal walked off into the forest, taking the same route he took before. I damaged one of the wolves from before eyes before I died. He's the perfect target. Khal stopped at a branch in front of him, picked it up, and started sharpening it with a flat rock he had also found nearby. Last time I fought using the same method, but this time is different, since my ability not only makes me grow stronger, but also allows me to adapt to any situation. I should be able to gradually become adept at using this. After being deemed sharp enough, Khal took the spear, trekking through the forest, slowly, quietly. And not too long after, he heard something. Rustle movement in the bushes that came from the left of Khal. Khal quickly spun around, stooping, quietly approaching. Khal slowly pushed the bush that was blocking his view out of the way, taking a look at what it was. It was a greyhound wolf. LVL 5. Greyhound wolf. The wolf turned its head in Khal's direction. Looking above, its mouth was covered in blood and one of its eyes, bleeding. Found you. A smirk crept onto Khal's face. The wolf turned around, tugging on something from behind a tree. Where you? Khal covered his mouth, looking in horror. The wolf dragged a torn-up body from behind the tree. His body. Khal's mouth puffed up, holding back his urge to throw up, his eyes filled with rage, his fingers tightening on the primitive spear. "It'll kill you, you foo. Adapted ability, stable mind acquired." Khal's tense and angry demeanor faded away, his gaze becoming calm. My mind feels free of any emotion. Crunch. The wolf started gnawing on the body, his back turned to Khal. I'm able to watch myself get eaten alive and not want to throw up. This ability is truly frightening. I feel like I've lost piece of what makes me human. And I'm not sure I like it. Khal shook his head, his gaze shifting back to the greyhound wolf. I don't have the luxury of thinking like that right now. If I don't act now, I won't get an opportunity like this. Khal silently started to approach, moving from behind the bushes into the open. I'll just be setting myself up for death again if I just rush at him wildly. Even though I've improved, it's practically unnoticeable. The only way I'll win this. Fwoosh! Khal stood up straight, charging at the greyhound, his expression firm. It is not by relying on the brute force I don't have, but by thinking 10 steps ahead. The greyhound, hearing Khal's footsteps, lifted its head, turning around. There's my chance. Adaptation. Accelerated cognition, acquired cognitive acceleration, +1 cognitive acceleration, +1 before it can fully turn its head around. Khal halted his charge, planting his right foot on the ground, steadying himself with his left. Khal pulled the spear back, aiming at the greyhound, his eyes staring intently at the beast as it slowly turned around. I'll hit the one spot I know it will take damage. Veins bulged from Khal's hand as he squeezed it with all his might. Muscle strength, +1 muscle strength, +1 muscle strength, +1 muscle strength, +1 its eye. Fwoosh! Khal threw the branch with all his might, sending it flying towards the beast. As the beast turned its head halfway around, ching! The branch pierced its one good eye. Ho! The beast howled in pain, stumbling back. I can't give it any time to react. Fwoosh! Khal resumed his charge, quickly speeding towards the beast. The greyhound shook off its pain, standing its ground, growling menacingly, though not being able to see. It was staring directly at Khal. Wait, can it somehow still see me? Khal thought as he closed in. Thwomp! The beast lunged forward at Khal, baring fangs, drool running down its cheeks. Adaptation. Neural boost, acquired reaction speed, +1 reaction speed, +1 reaction speed, +1. Adaptation mastery, LVL up. Khal reached his hand out, slamming it on top of its head, before lifting himself up above the beast. With quick haste, he held on to the spear, lodged in the beast's eye. With a sickening SCHLRRP, he pulled it free, landing back on his feet behind the beast. No, it can't see me. It's simply relying on its nose to pinpoint my position. Even if it knows where I am, it doesn't know what my actions will be. Ho! The beast howled in pain, quickly turning around, growling, readying itself to pounce once more. Khal took a defensive stance, gripping the primitive spear tightly with both his hands, his expression cold and resolute. The longer I fight this beast, the more predictable its moves become to me. And right now, I can tell it's about to go for the kill. Thwomp! The beast lunged once more in a desperate attempt. Khal stood his ground, thrusting the spear forward with a whoosh, his eyes cold, showing no hesitation. SCHLRP. No matter what happens from now on, I will continue growing stronger, breaking through my limits, and stomping on those who underestimate me. And you have become the first stepping stone on my new path to power. Khal stood tall, blood smeared over his hands and cheeks. The beast, its mouth was pierced by the primitive spear, which ran straight through its head. Greyhound Wolf, LVL 5 killed. 3.5 adaptive points acquired. The remaining 3 looked at Khal in despair, slowly backing away. Don't bother. Khal spoke, resting the spear on his shoulder. I hold nothing against you. It just so happens that I need to get rid of you. Khal slowly started walking towards them, the wolves backing away. Hope you understand. Name, Khal Dragul adaptation history level. 0, max, adaptation mastery. LVL 4, 76%. Blessing, adapt. Details adaptive points. 17.5 abilities. Adaptation, passive, inventory adapted skills. Khal stood over the dead corpses of the greyhound wolves, looking at his status window. None of my adaptations level increased, even after I took on 5 at once. I need more pressure. Bam! A loud banging noise came from behind Khal. He quickly turned around to see what it was. It was the beast inside the cave, its hand folded in a fist, its red eyes glaring at Khal. A small grin crept onto Khal's face. He walked over to the cave entrance, standing in front of the beast, only the barrier keeping them apart. Khal looked up at the beast's towering physique, his expression becoming cold. No need to be anxious. Khal taunted. I'm going to hunt down every single greyhound I can find, and when I come back, the beast stooped down onto Khal's level, staring him in the face. Khal stared back, not backing down. We can have some fun. Side note, vitality stones are the cores of monsters. All monsters possess a vitality stone. Vitality stones can be absorbed by the awakened for EXP. The stronger the monster, the more experience. Khal journeyed through the forest, killing every greyhound wolf he stumbled across, taking as much time as possible to increase his adaptation level. And after 4 hours of venturing through the forest, he had finally completed the quest. Slay 15 greyhound wolves. Status complete. Stage 2 will begin shortly. Stand by. Khal was in an open area of the forest, standing atop a boulder with 2 wolf corpses below him. Finally finished. Khal sighed, sitting down on the rock. After hours of searching for the last 2, I've finally completed stage 1. I guess that means I'm going to have to face that monster soon. Though I talked a big game, at my current level I'm not so sure. Name: Khal Dragul. Adaptation history level 0 max. Adaptation mastery LVL 4 80%. Blessing adapt. Details adaptive points 45.5 abilities. Adaptation passive inventory adapted skills. Even after hours of fighting, I still haven't made it to level 5 adaptation mastery. I was right. Greyhound wolves are simply too weak. At my current state, I can probably stand toe-to-toe with a level 9, maybe level 10 monster, but boss monsters are stronger than typical monsters. Stage 2. Survive the werebeast's pursuit. After killing all of his subordinates, the werebeast is out for blood. Survive him or get slaughtered by him. Time left, 29:57. Khal read the information, raising an eyebrow. Werebeast? I've never heard of such a monster before. Regardless, I can't underestimate it. The system isn't even asking me to defeat it, and is instead asking me to survive. Khal thought for a moment before getting up, jumping down from the boulder. For now, I should just stay away from the cave until I've thought of a plan. I suppose the fun I promised will have to wait. As Khal was about to walk away from the boulder, adapted ability, danger sense acquired. Khal's eyes widened in surprise at the new notification. Another skill, all of a swoosh. The hair on Khal's arm started to raise, a strong ringing in his head. It felt as if time itself had slowed down. Every bone in his body was telling him one thing. Keep your head down. Boom. Khal had quickly ducked down, and as soon as he did, something crashed right into the boulder behind him, the dust obscuring his vision. Found you. An inhuman-like voice came from within the smoke. It sounded as if a fork was being drawn across a steel plate. Khal quickly regained his composure, quickly backing away from the boulder until he was at a safe distance. If that had hit me just now, I would have lost my head. This isn't good. The dust had subsided, revealing the werebeast. His towering height, midnight black fur, bright red eyes, and tall fangs. Boss monster. LVL 10. Werebeast. The situation has escalated too quickly. I thought I'd at least have 10 minutes before it found me, not instantly. Khal thought. And how exactly can this monster talk? I've heard of high-level monsters obtaining sentience, but this one hasn't even gone through its first transformation. I haven't become quite adept at your language yet, so I hope I haven't startled you. The beast spoke again, staring at Khal with a sinister smile, its voice now more humane than before. Khal closed his eyes, calming himself down, and started to do stretches, not paying the beast any attention. I was quite surprised when you dodged my attack just now. I could have sworn I went for the kill. Then again, killing you now or 20 seconds later doesn't matter to me. Khal stopped his stretches, summoning his spear from his inventory. Kill me? What a dirty little mouth you have on you, doggy. Someone needs to put you on a leash. The beast lengthened its claws, staring at him, a bright smile on its face. It's not sure who will put a leash on whom. The beast replied. Khal raised an eyebrow, backing away. I don't swing that way, so the beast widened its eyes, releasing its stance. Just wait a damn second. I didn't mean it like whoosh. With the word beast distracted, Khal quickly charged forward, thrusting his spear, aiming for its head. Clang! The beast caught the tip of Khal's spear with two of its claws. The smile on its face was replaced by a cold expression. Cute trick. The beast taunted. Khal clenched his teeth, rage in his eyes, pulling his spear back to free it. But the beast's hold was too strong. Khal quickly placed the spear back in his inventory, and as fast as he could, he retreated back. No more tricks, said the beast. I only have a few more minutes, so we won't be able to have the fun you promised me. A sharp pain flooded Khal's head again, putting him off balance. Get out the way, before Khal could resummon his spear. Whoosh! At a speed too fast for Khal to see, the beast charged at him. Reaction speed plus 1 reaction speed plus 1 reaction speed plus 1 cognitive acceleration plus 1 cognitive acceleration plus 1 as fast as he could. He lifted his arms up to his face, clenching his jaws. SHK. The beast's claws cut right into his arms, cutting into his bone. Bam! The sheer force of the blow sent Khal flying into a tree, hitting his back with a sickening creak. Adaptation. Increased bone density acquired. Bone density plus 1 bone density plus 1 bone density plus 1 adaptation. Increased bone flexibility acquired. Bone flexibility plus 1 bone flexibility plus 1 bone flexibility plus 1 bone flexibility plus 1. The notifications kept on coming, increasing his overall adaptations by 15. Cough, cough. Khal lay slumped on the tree, coughing up blood. Though his wounds were healing, their regeneration speed was barely noticeable. Khal looked up at the beast as it started to walk towards him. How the hell is this thing a level 10 boss mob? Just one hit is enough to leave me in this state. With all the mouth you had, I expected a much more thrilling fight. Instead, I got this. The beast taunted, a sickening grin creeping on its face. Khal's expression was filled with frustration, clenching his jaw. Don't be so sure that this will be over so soon. Khal slowly started to rise, dragging his back on the tree as he pulled himself up. No more waiting to get hit. Whoosh! He rushed at the beast, his hands dragging behind him. The beast took a defensive stance, smiling menacingly at Khal's attempt at a counter. Yes, struggle some more. As Khal was about to close in, the beast swung its claws, aiming at Khal's head. You really are way too predictable, Khal thought, his eyes glowing with killing intent. The moment the beast's claws were about to hit him, he ducked. Ching, you're the type to drop your guard at the slightest sign of weakness. Khal brought his hands forward, the beast's eyes bulging in surprise at him being able to use his hands. Summon mana, infused spear. The spear appeared in his hand, and with a swift motion, Khal aimed at its head and thrust his spear with all his might. FOM shik. As fast as the beast could, it tilted its head, making the spear only pierce through his cheek. Khal stared up at it in shock. He dodged that. You're starting to piss me off. With a swift motion. Bam! The beast slapped Khal in the face with the back of its hand, causing him to fumble back, dropping his spear. Khal slammed his feet to the ground, clenching his jaw, quickly stopping himself. Muscle strength plus 1 muscle strength plus 1 muscle strength plus 1 muscle strength plus 1 muscle strength plus 1. The notifications kept piling in, obscuring Khal's vision. Hew, ha hew. Khal breathed heavily. Fighting like this isn't getting me any closer to defeating it. It's highly sentient, making its actions calculative and harder to predict, and its strength and combat experience are simply much higher than my own. Even if I try to wait out the timer. Time left. 22:56. I don't think I'll last that long. Adaptation mastery, LVL up. The beast held its cheek, holding it tight to prevent any further bleeding staring coldly at Khal. I wasn't sure the first time I saw you do it, but seeing it for the second time makes me certain. The beast held out one of its hands, and out of nowhere, a glass of red liquid fell into it. You're a player. Khal stared in shock, sweat running down from his cheeks. How? How is a monster able to summon, much less use, an item? The beast poured the red liquid onto its cheek. The wound quickly started to close, leaving behind nothing. Isn't it obvious, trespasser? I'm also a player. I thought you were just a sentient monster, but who would have thought I was fighting another player? Khal, still stunned, had thoughts running rampant. It thought I was the monster? Not only that, but I remember the system calling the Greyhounds trespassers. But if they originated from this place, how could they be? Just where the fuck am I? When he says player, is he referring to me, who has the adaptive system, or simply the awakened? No, it's definitely the latter. If what he said is true, and he is a player, then the system as we knew it is far different from what we thought, and all that we know about rifts is false. Khal steadied his breathing, staring the beast directly in its eyes. Earlier, you said you only had a few minutes left. If I'm not wrong, you currently have a countdown over your head, don't you? The beast widened its eyes in shock and curiosity. Yes, there is. The fact that you know that means you also have one, which means you also have a quest to kill me. Khal sighed, scratching the back of his head. On the contrary, I actually have a quest to survive until the timer runs out. The beast erupted into laughter, holding on to its stomach. Yes, that does sound about right. Khal ignored his taunt, his expression becoming cold. Before we continue trying to kill one another, I want to ask you something. What exactly are... The beast held its hand up, stopping Khal. I already know what you're about to ask, so don't bother. I have no intention of telling you that, nor do I wish to continue this conversation any further. We both have our own goals, and they do not align with each other. Besides, having a full conversation with a hairless monkey is creeping me out. TCH, Khal clicked his tongue. It seems I can't stall to heal any longer. You're right, and since we're about to go for round 2, it's about time I reveal my blessing. The beast smiled sinisterly, taking a running start. It's about time. After taking such a hard beating and not using it, it made me doubt if you were really a player or not. That confirms my suspicion. He is talking about the awakened, and by his tone, he also possesses a blessing. I guess I need to test that feature out now. Remote adaptation. Choose the amount of adaptive points and the form the adaptation will take. Combat, defense, practical, choosing defense when I can't counter would just prolong my life a bit. Consume 40 adaptive points for a combative adaptation. Calculating danger. Selecting suitable combat ability. Process complete. Blessing. Flame Tyrant Body, suppressed to D rank. Acquired, temporarily. Flames erupted from his body, covering every inch of him in bright orange flames. Now that's more like it, said the beast. Khal lifted his hands, watching the flames. It doesn't hurt at all, for he never even experienced the sensation of mana before now. And this feeling is truly amazing. Adaptation. Mana sensitivity acquired. Mana sense plus 1 mana sense, plus 1 mana sense, plus 1. Don't think those flames will save you from me. In its running position, the beast stretched its leg back, its leg muscles tightening blessing. Nitro. Whoosh. Nitronic movement. The beast blasted off towards Khal, its extreme speed only leaving a dark blur to be seen. So fast, so this is how it found me. Khal thought. The flame tyrant body doesn't just make my body burn with flames. The beast appeared before Khal, a smug grin on its face as it aimed its claws at his neck. As long as I focused the flames into my feet, the flames around his body started to disperse, focusing in his feet. Whoosh crash. The beast stood in shock, its mouth wide open. Khal was gone, only leaving behind a trail of dust and smoke. Fuck, that hurts. To the left, Khal sat slumped in a tree, the sheer force of his speed leaving a dent. Khal quickly got up, brushing himself off. Let's go again. I think I understand it now. The beast clenched its jaw in rage, its eyes filled with killing intent. There's no way he just moved even faster than me. No, that's not possible even among level 15 players. I stand tall in terms of speed. I was just caught off guard. Yeah, that's it. Khal's feet lit up in flames, his expression resolute, staring down the beast. Khal took a deep breath before exhaling. Again, whoosh! Khal launched, his feet leaving behind burn marks in the soil. The beast, seeing Khal approach, rushed forward, its mouth widening in an attempt to sink its fangs into him. At face value, it looks as if the main force behind the flame tyrant body is its ability to emit flames, but it's actually... Bam! With his left Khal slammed its jaw shut, the beast's eyes rolled back from the sheer force of the blow, putting it off balance. Its speed and strength. Cognitive acceleration plus 1 cognitive acceleration plus 1 cognitive acceleration plus 1 cognitive acceleration plus 1. Khal grabbed it by its neck, flames fuming from his hand, and with a swift motion. Boom! Khal slammed it into the ground. Ichu. Khal stood above the beast, resting his foot on its chest, breathing heavily. I haven't gotten used to the feeling of mana coursing through me, so I got burnt out pretty quick. Adaptation. Increased mana output mana, plus 1 mana, plus 1 mana, plus 1 cough cough. The beast laid flat on the ground, coughing up blood, its body battered and bruised, staring at the sky, averting its eyes from Khal. I'm going to lose. Memories flooded its mind. This world wasn't always this dark. There was a sun once, and the moon and sky weren't red. There were once millions of blood lichens in this world. Now, there's just me. If only the system hadn't abandoned us. It's been thousands of years since the system even appeared to me, causing me to lose all my power, but then, out of nowhere it did. Quest. Kill the evil trespasser that intends to destroy your world. A trespasser has come to kill the new generation of your people. Kill him and save your world. Fail and lose it forever. The beast clenched his jaw in rage, tears pouring out of its eyes. I won't lose. I have a mission to complete. If I kill him, the system will come back to my world. He must die. The beast's muscles started to grow, an ominous red energy slowly rising out of him. I must kill him. Save my world. Save my world. Save my world. I must save my... Burn. Flames burst out of Khal's feet, enveloping the beast. Ah. It burns. Stop it. Ah. I must kill you. Ah. Khal stared at the beast as it frantically moved, trying to escape the flames, his eyes void of emotion. I've read enough manga to know a power-up when I see one, and I'm not about to sit here and watch. The beast's movements slowly started to slow down before becoming barely noticeable. Khal stopped the flames, taking his foot off him. It was barely alive. All its fur burned off, and its body was just a few minutes away from being cooked. Khal stooped down, staring it in the eyes, the beast staring back. I can end it for you now. Or would you rather I wait until the timer runs out? Time left. 10:36. The beast's mouth slowly moved, words coming out but barely audible. Khal leaned in closer to listen. Enjoy your win for now. Soon your world will have the same fate as mine. The light in its eyes started to fade. Its chest stopped expanding. I'm not sure what happened to your world, but if the outcome was this, I know for certain. I won't let it happen to mine. Blood leak in LVL? Suppressed to 10, defeated. 50 adaptive points, acquired stage 2 completed. Stage 3 will begin shortly. Please stand by. Blue boxes materialized around Khal, taking pieces of him one by one. It seems stage 3 is in another space. I wonder what kind of monsters I'm about to fight that are even higher than that guy. Khal materialized in a separate area. Khal slowly opened his eyes. He was on the sidewalk of a dark street, brightened by streetlights, with multiple high-class houses on both sides of the road. Wait, I recognize this area. This is my neighborhood. Khal? Is that you, young man? An elderly voice came from behind him. Khal quickly turned around, raising his fist. Old man Newton? The elderly man laughed. It really is you, Khal. We heard you disappeared after your awakening. I know its grade wasn't amazing, but isn't it a bit inappropriate to leave your family worried for an entire week? And why do you look like you lost a tussle with a bear? Khal's eyes widened in surprise. Wait a second. Did you just say I was gone for an entire week? Newton raised an eyebrow. Yeah, 6 days actually. Tomorrow would have made it 7. I was in the tutorial zone for no more than 12 hours. I heard there were secret realms and rifts where time flowed differently, but I never expected I'd experience it so soon. Khal thought. And why did I leave the tutorial zone? I thought there was a third stage. Does that mean it takes place in the real world? My own world instead of another? Stage 3 will begin shortly. Please stand by. Old man Newton stood in silence, watching Khal. Khal snapped out of his trance, looking at Newton. Thank you for your concern, Mr. Newton, but I'll be fine. I'm about to head back home now, so no need to concern yourself. Khal walked off, following the sidewalk. Old man Newton lifted his hand, waving. I wasn't really concerned or asked for so much information, but all right, kid, take care. 5 minutes later, Khal stood outside the gate of a massive mansion, the gate black, and at its end stood 2 golden dragons. Home sweet home, the place I dread the most. Khal made his way towards the gate, his expression cold. 2 guards came forward from both sides of the gate, checking to see who it was. Young Master Khal, shouted one of the guards in surprise. They both quickly opened the gate, running towards him. Are you okay, young master? You've been gone so long. Everyone thought you ran away so that you wouldn't have to face the patriarch, said one of the guards, walking next to Khal. Yeah, by the way, what happened to you? You're all battered and bruised. And is that your school uniform? Did you lose a tussle with a bear? Khal stopped in his tracks, letting out an exasperated sigh. I just got home and need some rest. So if you don't mind, could you stop bombarding me with questions? The guard backed up, bowing their heads. Sorry about that, young master. Please head inside. The patriarch is inside lecturing young Master Arayon and young Miss Rose for tomorrow. Khal continued walking, his expression shifting to frustration. Father is here. The man barely shows his face around here, and he just had to show up now. The guards lifted their heads, one of whom had a nervous expression on his face, sweat running down his cheek. Hey, how's the young master? Always been that tall? Khal made it to the door as he was about to knock. The door opened, an elderly man in a butler outfit standing before him. Please enter, young Master Khal, said the butler, giving him way. Khal stepped past him, entering the house. The house was spotless, filled with luxury furniture, items, art of dragons, and housekeepers scurrying around the host. The patriarch is asking to see you. He's in his study. Khal stared at the butler, wiping dirt off his face. As you can see, I'm a bit messy. I think I can clean up myself first. The butler shook his head, a soft smile on his face. I'm afraid not. He wants you to go see him now. Khal stared at the butler for a while, his expression cold, before looking forward. Okay. He made it to the entrance of the study, the butler standing a few feet from him in the hallway. Khal went up to the door, knocking. Knock, knock. Enter. A voice came from inside the room, permitting him in. Khal opened the door and stepped inside. The room was far less impressive than the rest of the house, crowded with shelves stacked high with books and old antiques. At a lone desk in the center sat a muscular man with bright golden hair and glasses perched over bright red eyes. He sat writing on a piece of paper, not paying attention to Khal. Sit, he said, pointing toward the chair in front of the desk. No need. Khal, wearing a blank expression. The man stopped what he was doing, his eyes looking up at Khal, glowing with intent. I said sit. Khal's danger sense triggered, the hair on his body standing. TCH, Khal clicked his tongue under his breath, taking a seat. That was definitely murderous intent just now, against your own flesh and blood. After a few long, excruciating seconds, the patriarch finally spoke, his attention still on what he had been doing. What are your intentions regarding the college exams taking place tomorrow? Khal's hand balled into a fist. Your son has been missing for damn near a week, and the first thing you want to know is if I'm taking the college placement exams or not. I see what's going on. The college placement exam takes place at your previous high school a week after the awakening ceremony. You technically graduate after awakening. Though most students that have B rank and above blessings don't participate since they are guaranteed to get into a college, the ones that do seek to get into an even better college with strict requirements. I have no interest in getting into a college. Though the resources are pretty good, to me most are useless, and I'm honestly sick of the school life now. Reincarnated. I intend to get my breacher licenses after I'm finished with the tutorial. Not like I can tell him all of that. So let's go with. The blessing I awakened isn't very powerful. I'd only be embarrassing myself if I were to take place. The patriarch looks up at him. Khal, a depressing look on his face. All right, you can go now. That's all I wanted to know. Khal stood up, bowing his head before heading for the door. Before you go, said the patriarch, stopping Khal at the door handle. Just know if I find out you dare embarrass the Dragul family name by showing your face tomorrow, don't think to come back. Khal held on to the doorknob, a dark expression on his face. He turned around, wearing an awkward smile. Yes, sir. Khal opened the door, stepping outside the room, his expression frustrated. If it weren't for the fact I have no intention of going to school again, I would have so much loved to go tomorrow, just so I could see the look on his face when I crush everyone else, especially his precious twins. Stage 3, proving them wrong, take first place in Raven City's college placement exams. Khal read the system window, a blank expression on his face. He lifted his hand, stretching his head. Phew! Later in Khal's room. Khal had just finished taking a shower, walking out of the bathroom, connected to his room, with nothing but a towel around his waist. Out of everything the system could have chosen to be the final stage, it just had to be the one thing I was told not to. Of course, I could care less if I'm kicked out of the family. I intend to leave anyway, but making an enemy out of my own family doesn't excite me. Khal grabbed another towel off the top of the dresser, drying his hair. Still, my goal is to get stronger, and if the only thing that's helping me on my path is asking me to do it, then how can I refuse? Khal took the towel off his head, resting it on the dresser, looking at himself in the mirror. That's weird. Was I always this tall? Khal backed away from the mirror, looking at his body. Seems I'm more muscular too. I remember the system saying some of my features might change, but I didn't expect it would be so visible this early on. Open status window. Name, Khal Dragul adaptation history level. 0, max, adaptation mastery. LVL 5, 92%. Blessing, adapt. Details adaptive points. 55.5 abilities. Adaptation, passive, inventory adapted skills. Note, and going to stop adding description for old adaptations and only new after this chapter, since it takes up word count. Adaptation history. Pain resistance LVL 3. 11/30ths increased resistance to the feeling of pain. 28/30ths LVL 3 muscle strengthening. Increased muscle density and muscular strength. Accelerated cognition LVL 3. 2/30ths increased thought process speed, enhancing focus, memory, perception, and decision-making ability. 18/20 LVL 2 neural increase. Increased reaction speed, boosting reflexes, awareness, and rapid response time. Vitality increase LVL 2. 12/20ths the body optimizes energy use, reducing fatigue and boosting stamina and agility. 9/20ths LVL 2 cellular regeneration. Cells regenerate swiftly, restoring damaged tissue and accelerating natural healing processes. Bone density LVL 2. 1/20th bones thicken and harden, greatly increasing durability, strength, and resilience. 9/10ths LVL 1 bone flexibility. Bones become elastic and durable, allowing extreme movement without breaking. Mana sensitivity LVL 2. 2/20ths heightened senses detect mana flows, enabling precise control and absorption. 8/10ths increased mana. Mana surges through the body, expanding reserves and enhancing energy flow. It's getting harder to keep up with my adaptations. Hopefully it won't get to a point where my adaptations turn me into some form of abomination. Khal got dressed, wearing a black hoodie, baggy black sweatpants, and a pair of sneakers. Before tomorrow, I should prepare a little bit to ensure that I can come out on top, especially against my brother. I heard from a few of the maids he awakened the SS grade blessing, chaotic flames, not to mention with the help of the family resources, he and Rose are already level 9. I must say, I'm a little jealous. Khal pulled a lighter out of his pocket, igniting it. Adapt makes me able to constantly evolve to survive a deadly situation, but from my experience so far, The situation does not have to be deadly. Adapt evolves to ensure I'm not in a discomforting, dangerous situation. Khal placed his palm over the flame, letting it touch his skin directly. Obviously, this flame isn't enough to kill me or cause much harm, but constantly doing it will eventually cause damage, and when I start getting damaged, that's when my body starts to adapt. A period of 2 minutes passed. Khal still had the flame under his palm becoming red and starting to show signs of breaking. Adaptation. Heat resistance acquired. Heat resistance +1. Khal closed the lighter, a satisfied smile on his face. Seems my theory was correct. Even if the danger is self-induced, it will still try to keep me alive. I'm going to need a bigger flame. Next day, Ravenmore Academy Stadium. The stadium was packed with students. The stands were filled with observers chanting and cheering. Oh my God, is that Arayan and Rose Dragul? What are they doing here? I thought they went to Crescent Moon Academy, said one of the crowd members, pointing at two blonde-haired, identical students standing next to each other, both their expressions serious as they stood in the midst of the other students. They do. I heard they decided to take the exams here, but they still represent Crescent Moon Academy, replied another. The other students stayed away from them, refusing to make eye contact. Do you see him? Arayan asked Rose. Rose looked around, a smug look on her face. Nope, it seems he really didn't come, as expected. Why would he be stupid enough to show up, knowing he'd be disowned? Aaron clenched his jaw, his expression twisting into rage. That good-for-nothing bastard. After overshadowing me all those years, I'm finally ahead of you. Rose is right. Why would he show up, knowing he'd have to face me in the secret realm? Hey, wait a minute, isn't that Khal? Shouted one of the students. Holy, yeah, you're right. I almost didn't recognize him. Arayan and Rose quickly turned around. It was Khal, walking towards them, his hoodie over his head with a blank expression on his face. You have got to be kidding me. You actually showed up, said Arayan, a frustrated look on his face. Khal walked right past them, his eyes focused on Arayan as he passed. Let's save all the talking for later, little brother. Khal stood in the midst of the crowd, ignoring the other students that were staring at him. Can you believe this guy actually showed up? With an F grade blessing, the only way he'd get into a college is through a janitor application. Whispered a student. What is he even doing here? I thought he ran away or something. Guess he just wanted to embarrass himself one more time for kicks. The other students laughed aloud. Khal kept his composure, not paying them any attention. Arayan and Rose stood a few feet behind him. Rose was laid back, not paying Khal or anyone any attention, but Arayan was fuming, his expression filled with rage, clenching his fist as he stared at him. Talk later? Smug bastard. He thinks he's still the prodigy he once was. With the garbage blessing he awakened, he definitely won't be able to pass selection. Too bad I won't be able to crush him myself. A tall, muscular man with short black hair and green eyes, wearing a chest plate over his uniform, walked past Arayan, a warm smile on his face as he stared at Khal. Yo, Khal. I heard you ran away for a few days. You didn't make me an uncle in that time, did you? Khal slammed his hand against his forehead, shaking his head. This guy. Khal turned around towards him, wearing a slight grin. Hey, Jiang, I see you still know how to make jokes. Jiang made it over to him, resting his hand on his shoulder. It's no joke, man. I'm afraid you're going to have to become a kept man from now on. Jiang lifted his other hand, giving him a thumbs up. But fear not, my friend. The art of baby making is nothing to be ashamed of. Khal stared him in the eyes for a few excruciating seconds, a frustrated look on his face. Jiang stared back, his expression passionate, a wide, close smile on his face. Bam! Khal slammed his fist on his head, a pissed look on his face. Jiang grabbed his head immediately, seemingly close to being brought to tears. OWW, damn, that hurt. Are you sure you have an F grade blessing, dude? Khal turned back around, his frustration eased. Stop saying weird shit. Jiang, still holding his head, stood beside Khal. So, where have you been these couple of days? And why are you even here? You're always complaining about how much you hate school and never going to another again. Khal stayed silent a while before answering. I simply changed my perspective. Who knows? Maybe enrolling in a decent university might bring some unexpected benefits. Jiang looked at him for a moment before sighing. All right, I guess you don't have to tell me for now. After a few minutes of Khal and the other students waiting, the ground started to shake violently. Rumble, rumble, most of the students started to panic, falling to the ground, but Khal, Jiang, and a few other students stood their ground. Jiang had a wide grin on his face, resting his hand on Khal's shoulder. Khal stared at the area before him with a twisted expression. It seems it's coming from there. The ground before him started to open, pulling apart from each side. Students that were standing there started to fall in, screaming. Jiang stepped forward, seemingly trying to go help. Khal stopped him with his hand. Don't. They're fine, just wait. The ground stopped shaking and a semi-loud mechanical noise could be heard below it, getting louder and louder, seemingly getting closer. Hey, look, something's coming out of it. A student shouted, pointing at the crater. A bubble was seen floating out of the crater. As it flew higher, a female student could be seen inside it, a confused expression on her face. More bubbles floated up. All the students that had fallen and were in a bubble of their own. The onlookers and students all stared in mesmerization. A stage came up from the crater, fitting perfectly, leaving no gaps. At its center, a young, white-haired, blue-eyed, arguably handsome young man, wearing a robe and wand in hand, a smug smile on his face. "Oh my God, isn't that Charles Azul from the Azul family?" shouted a woman in the crowd. "Wait, the Charles Azul, the youngest level 70 awakened in Azul family history," asked another. "I heard he's the top student of ever Mist Academy now, one of the top 3 universities on the Eastern continent. To think he'd return to a small safe zone like Raven City." The crowd erupted into cheers, chanting his name. He simply stood there, wearing that smug look on his face. Ugh, not this kid's sister-loving bastard. This is just bringing back painful memories of when we used to hang out with Serene, said Jiang, slamming his hand to his face. Charles waved his wand around, placing the bubbles on the ground before popping them. The crowd went wild once more, filling his ego. Charles placed his hand over his mouth, covering his sickening grin. "Yes, praise my genius some more, you disgusting background characters. If it weren't for the fact my darling sister stayed in this godforsaken level B safe zone, I would never in a million years lower myself to be around you filth. Make this filthy experience more bearable." Charles removed his hand, clearing his throat, his expression becoming calm. "Please, everyone, settle down," his voice being carried by the stadium speakers. The area instantly became quiet, the crowd and students locking in. As you all know, today is the university entrance exams for Combat Class Awakened. Schools from all over the continent are also in the midst of completing their own exams. Millions, maybe billions of students are participating in the exams, and the only way for you to make it into any one of these universities is for you to stand at the top. He continued, "Some of you have already been accepted into a university, but you wish to go even further and get into an even better university, which is truly inspiring. I wish to see every last one of you get accepted into the school of your dreams. Now, without taking up any more of your time, let me explain the exams to you all." The student stayed quiet, focusing on his words. The exam is divided into 2 parts. First is the selection. The selection is divided into 2 parts. The mana crystal test, where we test your mana output. Even with a high mana stat, without good control over your mana, you will not be able to release its full power. The second test is the high damage test, where we test the full power of your highest attack skill by letting you attack a damage output reading, or if your damage is below the 900 mark, you will fail the selection regardless of your mana output score. I'll explain the final exam after the selection. So without further ado, let Raven. He stopped, pulling a piece of paper from out of his pocket. Ravenmore Academy's university examinations begin. The crowd erupted into cheers once more. Khal and Jiang stood with displeased looks on their faces. This bastard doesn't even know the name of the school, they both thought. After a few minutes, a gigantic rock around 20 feet tall, well carved into a rectangle, was pulled onto the stage. A few feet away from it, a small crystal ball a few feet away from it on top of a table. Charles came before the students once more, wearing a fake smile. "All right, everyone, preparations are complete. I will now be calling your names one by one based on blessing, lowest to highest. Okay, let's get started. Charles took a piece of paper out of his pocket, unfolded it, and read it. So first up is Khal, D-R-A. He covered his mouth with his hand, a sickening grin underneath. Holy yes, it's that annoying sister stealing brat from 3 years ago. I can't believe this so-called genius awakened an F-grade blessing. To think he actually showed up too, the ball's on this guy. I'm so glad I too will leave from school to be here. This is going to be so good. He removed his hand from his mouth, clearing his throat, his expression becoming calm. With a wide smile, he spoke. First up, Khal Dragul. The students turned towards Khal, their gazes filled with pity, their expressions twisting into mockery. Khal simply stared at Charles, a smug smile on his face, scoping out the crowd, looking for him. Hey, wait a minute, I thought I heard that name before. Isn't he the one-time genius of the Dragul family? Why are they allowing F ranks to participate? He's just wasting everyone's time. Shouted an on-viewer, the rest of the crowd joining in. Didn't you run away? Why don't you go back to the hole you crawled out from? We don't have time for this. The crowd began shouting their disapproval, the other students laughing along. Charles finally spotted Khal, trying his best to hold in his laughter. This is simply too good. What the hell did he expect would happen? No one came here to see an F-grade awakened try to get into a university. It's like watching a puppy try to go toe-to-toe against a group of grown Dobermans. Damn, Arayon. I can't imagine how disappointing it must be to have such a uselessly pitiful brother, remarked one of the students standing next to Arayon and Rose. Aaron turned to him, his expression filled with rage, mana slowly seeping out of him. Do I know you? The student's expression twisted into despair, his body vigorously shaking. No, sir, he replied. Well, then get the hell out my face. He quickly took off, bouncing into the other students on the way out. Arayon turned back around, a frustrated look on his face. I'm not like these wet behind the ears, unobservant fools. Just now, when the ground was shaking, while most were panicking, he was one of those that stood unfazed. Something like that can't just be done by anyone. Jiang rested his hand on Khal's shoulder, his expression twisting to rage. Let's just get out of here, dude. Khal looked back at him, smiling. Don't worry about me. I can handle myself. Charles cleared his throat, calming himself. All right, settle down, everyone. I've heard your complaints, and it doesn't seem like this person intends to come forward. So let's continue with the names. Chu, who said I'm not coming? Shouted Khal, silence coming after his voice. He made his way towards the stage, the other students and crowd visibly annoyed and bored. Jan, let's just get this over with. Charles clenched his jaw, looking at Khal in disgust as he came closer towards the stage. I'm being nice enough to move along and stop this humiliation fest, and you dare still want to get up here. Fine, so be it. Khal made it onto the stage. Charles gave him a fake smile, pointing him towards the crystal orb. All right, we have our first examen. This test is quite simple. You just need to pour as much mana as you can into the crystal orb. If your mana reading is above 100, equivalent to 100% use of 10 mana points in mana stat. It may sound easy enough, but an F-grade blessing can only use 10% of a stat points increase, making them have to work 10 times harder than a B rank that can use 100%. The only way he could pass this test is if his mana stat was at 100. Charles covered his mouth, hiding his sinister grin. Khal stood over the orb, lost in thought. My mana stat is only level 1. I don't think I'll be able to achieve a very high score on this test. Khal put his hand forward, placing it on the orb. Closing his eyes, he circulated his mana into the orb. Swish! The orb glowed, a bright, white light inside, swirling around. After a few moments, numbers started to appear over his head. 140? Oh, that's not so bad. I guess he passed, not by much, but he passed, said one of the crowd members. Yeah, not too bad for a F rank, I guess, another replied. Hey, what's wrong with the students? Why aren't they saying anything? The crowd looked towards them. Most were in shock. Aaron and Rose, for one, had their eyes wide open. 140 isn't very impressive, but how the hell did a grade F awaken to do something only a B rank magic type could accomplish in such a short amount of time. There's no way that's an F rank's mana output. Even for B ranks with over 18 mana stat, that level of output control would be difficult. Shouted a student. He has to be cheating. This is just simply impossible. Charles stared intently at Khal, his fake smile twitching. Well, that's a surprise. Still, there's still the highest damage output test. Charles began to clap, his expression soft. Well done, young man. Let's continue with the second test. Khal lifted his hand off the orb, his expression cold. Okay. Khal stood in front of the tower or staring at it intensely. Like I explained before, release your most powerful attack and the rock will calculate the damage value. If the value is above 1,000, then you pass. Score as high as possible since every point earned will help in the long run. Khal pulled both his hands out his pocket, taking a boxing stance. Mummers began spreading through the crowd. It seems his blessing is close combat. With such a high mana output for an F rank, I thought it would be a ranged magic type. Maybe he just put all his stat points into mana so he could pass the first test. Khal closed his eyes, focusing on his fist. This type of material, brute force alone, won't let me do much damage. I need to use mana, but I don't have an offensive skill, and I can't active remote adaptation whilst not in danger. There's only one thing I can do. Khal began focusing his mana into his fist. His mana slowly began to build up, blood-red mana, slowly seeping out his fist. Brother, is he using martial aura? Rose asked Arayon. Aaron shook his head left and right. No, he's just condensing his mana into his fist. It's nothing special. Rose turned back to Khal, watching intently. Arayon folded his arms, his expression flustered. I might say that, and even though this method of fighting is barbaric, I feel uneasy watching his fist. Khal opened his eyes glowing red with mana. Khal stepped forward. With a wide arc, he aimed his fist at the ore. Charles's eyes bulged in surprise, his expression becoming nervous. Wait, that seems a bit... Boom. Strong. Khal's fist punched deep into the rock, leaving crack marks around it. Khal pulled his arm free, turning around to the crowd with a blank expression. 4897 AP, no way. The crowd and students shouted in disbelief. 4,897. Which high schooler in all of Raven City could get such a high reading? What's even more insane is the fact that he didn't even use a skill. That was just pure strength and mana. I heard when he awakened his blessing, there was an unbelievable divine effect, but since he awakened an F-grade blessing, it was written off as his talent. But looking back at it, maybe the priest was wrong. Ahem. Charles cleared his throat. All right, let's be quiet, everyone. The noise simmered down, but murmurs could still be heard. If you don't mind, Khal, could you tell me what level you are exactly? Khal's eyes widened at the question, a hint of nervousness in his gaze. Shit. The question I was trying to avoid. Seems I went a little overboard just now. What the hell do I say? If they check my status window and see that I'm level 1 like the priest, there's no way they will let it go unquestioned. Though others cannot perceive the system, in their eyes the host is using the $% system. Depending on a user's current power level, your level and stats seen by others will increase appropriately, except for skills. So if I show him my status window, he will see the whatever you just said system version of my current abilities? Precisely, though, your stats may not be accurate. I don't know how the $% and system's power scaling works, and I don't care to. I think this is the first time I've heard you speak so freely. Khal lifted his hand up, his status window appearing. No, I have no issue. Charles steadied his focus on the window, reading intently. What Charles is seeing. Name, Khal Dragul, level 8 age. 18 years old blessing. Adapt F, skills. Adaptation, passive stats. STR, 14. Dex, 9. Agi, 6. Vit, 8. MP, 11. This status window makes no sense. Level 8? Even for a level 8, his stats suck. There's no way these garbage stats did that much damage. Charles looked Khal in the eyes. Khal stared back with a blank expression, unreadable. Fine, let be for now, but I'm definitely going to find out what you did and expose it. Everything seems to check out. Khal Dragul passes the first exam. Next, the examination continued. Students went up one by one to participate because of the results Khal had gotten. Most went up thinking it would be a piece of cake, but most failed. No matter who went up on the stage, Khal's name was in everyone's mouth. After a few hours, the examination had finally come to an end. The most notable students that took place were Rank 10, Garik Ironshade, Mana Output, 160. Highest Damage, 1760 Ranked 9, Soren Virulith, Mana Output, 185. Highest Damage, 1890 Ranked 8, Lyra Valestra, Mana Output, 176. Highest Damage, 1930 Ranked 7, Jiang Ashbourne, Mana Output, 135. Highest Damage, 2087 Ranked 6, Marek Stormvale, Mana Output, 230. Highest Damage, 2200 Ranked 5, Merlin Lewin, Mana Output, 320. Highest Damage, 3090 Ranked 4 Rose Dragul, Mana Output, 305. Highest Damage, 3340 Ranked 3 Serene Azual, Mana Output, 280. Highest Damage, 3857 Ranked 2 Arayon Dragul, Mana Output, 345. Highest Damage, 4285, and then there was Khal. Ranked 1 Khal Dragul, Mana Output, 140. Highest Damage, 4897. The number of students that stood in the arena was cut greatly. The once packed area was now more spacious than before. Charles came closer towards the edge of the stage, approaching the remaining students. This marks the end of the first examination. Out of the 7,983 students that participated, only 1,568 passed, so give yourselves an applaud. The students began applauding, the crowd joining in. Khal stood next to Jiang, the space around them empty. The other students had backed away from him, their once pitiful gaze slowly becoming fear. When I enter the secret realm, unless necessary, I should avoid other students. I can handle myself and among my peers, but I shouldn't let this small amount of power get to me. I'm nowhere close to where I want to be. All right, it's going to get dark soon, so let's hurry along. I'll now be explaining the second examination, the Secret Realm exhibition. A wave of anticipation spread throughout the students, excitement in their eyes. Most of you know about this course of the exam, but this year things will be much different. The students looked at each other, confused. Different how, sir? Aren't the exams the same every year? We enter a secret realm and kill monsters to obtain enough points to pass. A student asked. Charles shook his head left and right. This year will be a tad different. He continued. The secret realm you will be entering has more than one entrance. All the other entrances are connected to the other high schools in Raven City. Every student in Raven City will be taking part in the same event. Gasps came from the crowd, some students becoming visibly nervous. Like always, defeating monsters will increase your score. The higher the monster's level, the more points you obtain. Since so many students will be inside the secret realm, it is decided that you will also be able to earn points by eliminating other players. He continued, no need to be frightened. You won't die. The second your health reaches critically low, you will be teleported out of the secret realm. Khal placed his hand under his chin, lost in thought. It's obvious the principals are pitting each school against each other. Others will realize it's taking too much time to hunt monsters because of the vast majority of students and will start to hunt each other instead. In that situation, the students will have to join forces with each other to take on other schools. It's as if they're trying to simulate a war. Murmurs began to spread throughout the students. This year's university examination seems a bit too difficult. Yeah, I don't get it. Why couldn't we just stick to the old exam? Charles clenched his jaw, smiling to cover his rage. I see that some of you carry complaints about this year's exam, but I need you to understand. You can always leave. The students stared in shock, dropping their heads. The murmurs subsiding. All right, now that we've taken care of that, I will now be distributing your points. Golden numbers began appearing over their heads. As you can already tell, the points are your overall score from the first examination. The secret realm will be open for 6 days, and the person with the highest score will have the honor of carrying our school's medallion. The students look back at Khal, just standing there nonchalantly with his hands in his sweater pockets. 50-33 floating over his head. I demand a re-evaluation. The students turned to where the voice came from. It was Aaron, a frustrated look on his face. I was just going to let this be and face him inside the secret realm. But if others find out I lost the first place position and the medallion to an F rank, I'll never be able to show my face at school again. I do not believe someone with an F grade blessing is able to produce such strength. I don't know what trick he used, but I doubt he will be able to use it in the secret realm. I don't accept the medallion being kept with him. The students began blurting out their disapproval. Yeah, it's just as young Master Rayon said. Who knows what he did? We ain't let him enter with it. Give it to young Master Rayon. I knew something was off. How could an F rank not only reach level 8, but also have such power? He definitely cheated. Don't give it to him. Shameless bastard. Jiang stepped forward, rage in his eyes. All of you, shut the hell up. He did no such thing as cheat. You have no right. Khal grabbed his shoulder, shaking his head. The students continued to ridicule Khal, but he kept his composure. Brother, don't make this any more embarrassing than it needs to be. Just go home and live a good life in the family, marry some third-rate house's daughter, and die of old age. Khal stared at him, letting out a laugh, slamming his palm to his face. Arayon's expression twisted into anger. What's so funny? Khal stared back at him, his expression becoming serious. What's funny? Let me see. Maybe it's the fact that my useless brother can't accept the fact he is weak. Or these idiots who would rather entrust an outsider from another school with a medallion than me. Arayon's eyes widened, clenching his fist, mana seeping out of his clothes. The fuck you just said to me? You little sh. Charles clasped his hands, a wide smile on his face. All right, everyone, settle down. He turned his gaze towards Khal. He stared back. This is simply too good. It seems the other students are not very keen on you having the medallion. I'm afraid I'm in quite the tight position. Not. If I wanted, I could make you pass instantly, but of course I won't. I hate your guts. Khal stared at him for a while before turning his gaze. I could care less. If he wants it, let him have it. Charles's smile became even wider. Yes, back down. This is just too good. Then it's settled then. Arayon will be given the medallion instead of Khal. The students and crowd began laughing, whispering amongst themselves. God, he's such a bitch. He backed down in less time it takes for me to wipe my ass. We dodged a bullet, almost making this cheater obtain the medallion. Khal's expression was unchanged, but his eyes glowed, the rage inside him slowly building up. I'll see you all inside. Charles stood before the crowd once more. All right, it's the time you all have been waiting for. The space behind began to twist, becoming faster and faster. A bright blue light appeared at its center, and after a few moments, it appeared. A man-made rift. Once you enter this space, you will spawn in a random area in the secret realm, but if you enter with others in a 3-second timeline, you will spawn in the same area as them. So if you want, you can form groups for exploration. I'll give you all 5 minutes. As to be expected, most of the students flocked to Arayon and Rose, the rest seeking out the other ranked students, but none came towards Khal. Only Jiang stayed by his side. Don't worry, bro, and you can fight monsters together. We're both already pretty strong, so we don't need anyone else. Khal turned to him, giving him a warm smile. Thanks, Jiang. You're the best friend I could ever ask for. But for now, I want to do this on my own. I need to reach higher heights on my own without the help of others, so that something like today will never happen again. Jiang stared at Khal for a while before letting out an exhausted sigh. All right then, bro. If that's your wish, then I'll oblige. Jiang put up his fist, Khal putting up his in return, slamming them together. Jiang walked off, joining the other students. All right. I hope you all have formed your groups. 5 minutes later, everyone was standing next to someone except Khal. Make your way into the secret realm with your teammates. Remember, there's only a 3-second timeline after someone enters to join. Arayon's team made their way into the portal. Arayon stopped, turning around to Khal, holding up the medallion. See you inside, brother. Khal remained nonchalant, ignoring his remarks. After a few moments, it was finally time for Khal to enter. "Where are your teammates?" Charles asked, a smug look on his face. Khal ignored him. Walking into the portal, the mana waves from it blowing off his hoodie, revealing his cold, angered expression. "Literally can't wait to see you all inside." Khal slowly opened his eyes. A bright light obscured his vision. After a moment, he began to make out what he was seeing. It was the sky, similar to the sky in the real world, except for the two suns shining next to each other. Khal lay flat on his back in tall grass, the sound of the trees swinging back and forth, birds tweeting, and the smell of grass in the air. Khal sat up, standing up on his feet. A forest biome once more. Khal began trekking through the forest, looking around the surroundings. I don't hear anyone else around, so I guess the 3-second rule ensures that other players aren't teleported in the same vicinity. Khal stopped and did some short stretches. I should be clear to grind some adaptations here. Creak. The sound of a branch breaking came from behind Khal. Khal stopped his advance, his eyes glowing with murderous intent. He slowly tilted his head to the side. The weight that broke that branch sounded quite weak. Someone light on their feet. Danger sense also has not activated, so they're not a threat. But it sounded like the sound was coming towards me. It's not a harmless creature. So it's either a monster that can hide its intent or another student. I was followed. Khal quickly turned around, taking in a deep breath, preparing to attack. "Wait, I come in peace." A soft, feminine voice came from behind a tree. Said person revealed herself, a small, petite woman with shiny blonde hair and purple eyes, wearing a witch outfit, a staff in hand, held above her head. Her expression, cold and unreadable. Merlin Leywin, the young miss of the Leywin Knight family, S grade, awakened. If I remember correctly, the blessing is called Archmage. For the time being, Danger Sense is yet to activate, so I'll play along for now. "What do you want? Why are you following me?" She stayed silent for a while, dropping her hands. "You're strong. Let's team up." Khal raised an eyebrow, confused. "Did you not get the memo? I cheated on the exams." "Leave. I'm not looking for a teammate." Merlin began to approach Khal. "No. My eyes can stare into the depths of others, and when I stared into yours, I almost lost my soul inside. I couldn't reach the end." She stood in front of Khal, looking up at his face. Khal looked down into hers. Both of their expressions cold and unreadable. Doesn't seem she is lying. Theoretically, since I'm not limited by the leveling system, I can always and forever progressively grow strong. That's why she couldn't find my depths. Even so, I don't trust this woman. Her gaze is similar to mine, and someone who thinks like me, I can never trust. As I said before, I have no intention of forming a team with anyone. Leave. But by all means stay, obtaining a few more points whilst eliminating a ranked student. Merlin, not fazed by his threat, simply stared at him. They kept eye contact for a few moments before Khal broke his gaze, letting out an exasperated sigh, walking away. Merlin followed him close behind, tugging her staff. "Stop following me." "Khal," his voice filled with frustration and annoyance. "No, teammates," she replied, following his every footstep. "Though I hold no animosity for this girl, this is starting to get annoying. I should just get rid of her." Khal clenched his fist, focusing his strength into it, but as he was about to turn around, there he is. Khal focused his attention in front of him. A few students, further into the forest, were running towards him, pleased looks on their faces. "Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you about this." "Merlin," her tone nonchalant. Khal stared at her, raising an eyebrow. "Friends of yours?" Merlin shook her head left and right. "No. Earlier, before we entered the secret realm, I overheard Invigilator Charles and a few other students conversating. While everyone else was looking for teammates, I was standing next to the stage, doing something else, staring at Khal. When I overheard Invigilator Charles and a few suspicious-looking students talking. When you all enter the secret realm, I want you to immediately look for Khal Dragul and kill him." "Charles," his expression serious. "Do you mean eliminate him?" "We can't kill each other in the secret realm. You said that," replied one of the students. "While it may be true that death is impossible in certain ways, I added a loophole. You just need to kill him in one powerful move, and the program will not be able to intervene." He continued. Here, Charles handed one of them a small blue, square glass. I'll ensure when you enter close to his location. With that, you will be able to track his exact location. Make it fast. I don't want this to lead back to me. They bowed their heads to Charles. No need to worry, Sir Charles. We will ensure this cheater will never embarrass Ravenmore any more than he already has. Charles smiled sinisterly. His eyes filled with murderous intent. Count your minutes, you arrogant bastard. You won't be alive to see tomorrow. I made sure of that. Wait, how do you know that last part if he didn't say it aloud? Khal. A confused look on his face. Merlin kept quiet, ignoring Khal. The students made it to them, stopping a few feet away from them. One of the students came forward, a smug look on his face. Miss Merlin, what a surprise to see you here. If you don't mind, we would really appreciate it if you left. We have business with the young man here. Merlin stepped forward, aiming her staff at them. What business is that? The man's expression became darker, murderous intent leaking out of him and the other students. Please do not make this any harder than it needs to be. We might not be willing to kill you. But what about an early elimination? Khal placed his hand on her shoulder, pulling her out of the way. Well, look who it is. It's Khal. We've been looking for you, man. Why don't you come over here? We swear we aren't going to hurt you. I count 10 of them. You said that Charles added a loophole to the Secret Realms program to not be able to prevent instant kills. Right, Merle? She looked up at him, curiosity in her gaze. Yes, he did say that. Khal's expression became serious, his eyes glowing with rage. Since we're teammates now, how about you do me a favor and form into a ball? The fall might hurt. She raised an eyebrow. Who's Swish? Khal threw Merlin towards them. It was as if time itself slowed down as she passed them, a blank expression on her face, confused looks on their faces. What the BAM? Like a ghost, Khal appeared before them, his fist piercing straight through the first student. 1. The female student behind him stared in horror, stretching her hand out, preparing an attack. Swish! Khal disappeared out of sight. Ching thud. She looked down at her hands. Oh! She screamed, her hand relying on the ground. Ching! Khal swung his spear in a wide arc, cutting off her head. So you aren't confused, he summoned it from inventory. 2. Another one of the students, wielding an axe, jumped behind Khal, aiming at his head, tears in eyes. You bastard! I'll kill you even if it's the last thing I do. Float. The man began to rise into the air. It was Merlin standing behind them. Fall. The man began falling headfirst from a height of over 40 feet high, screaming and crying. Bam! 3. Merlin, a cold look on her face. The students stared at her in shock and horror, slowly backing away. A sinister grin crept onto Khal's face as he stared at Merlin. I suppose she does have some use to her. A few moments later, Khal and Merlin sat on the ground, back to back, bloodied and breathing heavily, the dead bodies lying around them. All right, I'll admit it. You're strong, but if you're going to keep following me, you need to follow my lead. Khal, his tone shrewd and resolute. Okay, Merlin replied. Examination ranking updated. Khal looked up at the system window, except this one was different from the one he had. 1. Khal Dragul, 30,488 4. Marek Stormveil, 5,938 8. Poison Master, 5,225 2. Rose Dragul, 26,325. Reagan Helstien, 5,709. Sword Emperor, 5,048 3. Unknown 16490. U6. Night Shao 5,685 10. Serene Azul 4,948 3. Unknown 6,397. St. Mike 5,438. So this is how they track our progress. Through rankings, but how did Arayon and Rose raise? They're so fast. Did they also get attacked? No. I bet those bastards killed their teammates. Oh well, not my problem. Would you like to set an alias? A slight grin crept onto Khal's face. Set alias to Darwin. Khal and Merlin ventured deeper into the forest, hunting monsters. After a few hours of venturing, the only monsters they encountered were low level. I hoped I would have found an elemental monster to farm a resistance, But since today is only the first day of the exam, most of the monsters are quite weak. They aren't even strong enough to level up any of my adaptations. I guess I'll have to wait a day or two. Merlin grabbed Khal by his hoodie, pulling it. Khal turned his head to her, eyebrow raised. Since we currently aren't doing anything, do you mind if we check something out? Khal turned towards her, curiosity in his gaze. What are you talking about? She tilted her head down, pulling a map out of her pocket and unfolding it. My mother gave me this map. She said that when this secret realm was built, it was made from fragment of a destroyed C-class rift to cut cost. The fragment had an unexplored dungeon inside it, but they didn't want to waste resources to close it. To ensure a student wouldn't wander into it, they covered it up. This map is supposed to lead to the location of said dungeon. Khal's eyes widened with curiosity, rubbing his chin. If what she said is true, a place with monsters stronger than me would be the perfect place to level up my adaptations. But can I trust this information? Why did she tell me this? Did she need the help in exploring it, or is there another reason behind it? Khal thought for a while before responding. If what you're saying is true, we should follow the map for now and see where it leads us. If it is as you said, then I suppose we can explore to see what we can find. She hasn't done anything untrustworthy so far, so let's check it out. I can't let such an opportunity pass. Merlin nodded, staring at the map, leading the way. Khal followed closely behind, watching his surroundings. After a few minutes of venturing through the forest, they made it to its end, reaching an open grassy plain. The air there was different. It felt as if they stepped into a different world entirely. The wind would blow but seemingly not pass into the forest, and the creatures inside the forest seemingly tried to avoid crossing into it. We're now in the rift fragment, aren't we? Khal asked. Yes, we are. We're not far now. We're about an hour away from where the dungeon is located. They kept moving forward. Khal felt uneasy. Though his danger sense wasn't being activated, he could still feel something was off. Since the moment we entered this area, I've had a bad feeling. I feel like we're being watched. They were passing a massive brown boulder. Merlin, buried in the map, kept walking without pause. But Khal couldn't take his eyes off the rock. He stopped, reached out, and grabbed her shoulder, halting her in her tracks. Sorry to do this to you again. Before she could react. Swoosh! Khal threw her into the air, the hair on his body raising, a sharp pain in his head. I won't be able to dodge this. Boom! An enormous earthy hand uprooted itself from the ground, smacking Khal away. Bam, 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 Khal skipped across the ground like a rock, stopping a few feet away from it, struggling to stand up. Muscle strength plus 1 muscle strength plus 1 muscle strength plus 1 bone density 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 plus 1 damn. That hurts. I really can't get a break. Khal stood up, summoning his spear, mana seeping out the blade. Merlin floated above the creature, sitting on her staff. If Khal didn't move me out the way just now, I would have been dead. Rumble, rumble, the ground shook violently. The massive earthy hand, already gripping the ground, began to pull itself free. Another arm burst through the soil, then its body followed, rising from the ground. At the top, a small jagged head emerged, its glowing white eyes fixed in a cold glare. Earth Golem LVL-12. Merlin quickly flew towards Khal, floating above him. How are we going to defeat that thing? Its level is higher than both of ours, and Earth Golems are known for their high defense and regenerative abilities. She asked. Khal steadied himself, a determined expression hardening on his face. He was already calculating his next move. Tell me, what are all the offensive abilities you have? He asked, eyes narrowing as he scanned the golem. Rapid Water Bullet and Purple Thunder are currently my only offensive abilities. She replied, that golem's mostly made of dirt. Your Water Bullet will be key in stopping its regeneration. Why give the signal? I want you to fire everything you've got at its left arm. She nodded her head in response, slowly flying towards the golem. Whoosh! Khal charged forward, his feet pounding the ground, passing Merlin in an instant. His mind raced. My spear might not do much damage on its own, but if I let Merle use Water Bullet before I attack. Now! Khal shouted. Merlin extended both hands, aiming at the golem's left arm. Rapid water bullet. PSSH. 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 Merlin's attack struck relentlessly, soaking and damaging the golem's hand in water. Enraged, the golem swung its arm, aiming to crush her. Khal poured his mana into his spear, focusing intently. Whoosh! He leaped into the air towards it, swinging his spear in a wide arc. Ching! Do some damage. Bam! 3 of its fingers fell to the ground. Khal landed, falling on top of one of them. The golem tried to regenerate, but all the soil kept falling off, making the injury even worse. A golem keeps its core in one of 2 areas, its head or its chest. If the core is not discovered and destroyed, a golem will never die. Fighting like this won't do much to it, but if I can render it unable to regenerate its arms, we win. The golem swung its massive arm down at Khal, who reacted instantly, lifting his spear above his head to block the strike. Bam! The golem's fist slammed down on him, the soaked soil making its arm break off. Khal remained buried beneath the soil, his body unscathed. Blunt force resistance acquired. Blunt force resist +1 blunt force resist +1 blunt force resist +1 rapid water bullet. Merlin shot its other hand 9 consecutive times, soaking it with water. Whoosh! Khal exploded from the dirt, his spear raised high, a grin tugging at his lips. Great work, Merle. Leave the rest to me. I need to take its arm off in a single move. I'll inject as much mana as I can into my weapon. Mana +1 mana +1 mana +1 mana +1. The spear pulsed with a fierce red glow, mana crackling and seeping from its blade. And with everything I have, I'll slash. Ching! A red arc of pure mana sliced through the golem's arm, the energy dissipating into the air as the limb was severed cleanly. Boom! The golem's hand crashed to the ground, breaking apart into dirt. Khal landed swiftly on his feet, immediately backing away from the golem, his eyes locked on its movements. The golem attempted to regenerate its arm, but the soil continued to slip off. In a fit of rage, it shook violently, a bright white ball of light forming just in front of its head. Golems are extremely stupid. All it needs to do is break off the wet soil to regenerate. But even with their dullness, when they realize they're in danger, they draw power from their core to charge up an insanely powerful mana blast. The place where the blast is being charged from will fool you and let you think that's where the core is, but it's the opposite. Merle, quickly use Water Bullet and attack its chest. On it, Merlin extended her hands, firing. Rapid Water Bullet. PSSH. 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 The attacks struck the golem, soaking the front of its chest and putting it off balance. Though the attack was damaging, the golem didn't stop, still charging up its attack. Khal held his spear back, mana seeping out of it. Since it no longer has any hands to block, this is my chance. And with everything he had, he threw it. Whoosh! The spear traveled at an incredible speed, aimed at the golem's chest. Thump! The spear struck true, piercing the golem's chest. It impaled the core, which flew out of the golem's body with it, landing with a sharp thud on the ground. Earth Golem defeated. 27.5 adaptive points acquired. 4,000 points earned from defeating an Earth Golem, split between greatest mage alive. Examination ranking updated. The blast subsided, its body falling to the ground, returning to soil. Merlin flew down to the ground, checking her status window, a slight smile forming on her face. Wow, I leveled up 3 times. I'm level 10 now. Khal turned to her, forcing a smile. Oh yeah, I leveled up too. Must be nice. If only you weren't here, I could have played with that golem some more and farmed some adaptations. Well, I guess it wasn't that bad a loss since I got another adaptation, and I probably wouldn't have encountered it without her. Khal let out an exasperated sigh. I'll let it go for now. Merlin tilted her head, staring at him with curiosity. Let what go? Khal shook his head left and right. It's nothing. Let's continue. Khal walked over to his spear, dragging it out of the ground and pulling off the golem's core, throwing it away. Too bad it's destroyed. Merlin, staring at the core with a disappointed look. Destroy? Khal asked. The golem's vitality stone, it would have produced a decent amount of experience if it wasn't destroyed. Khal widened his eyes in surprise before turning his gaze. Oh yeah, I was so absorbed in reclaiming my spear and wasn't focused on what you were saying. Since vitality stones have no use to me except monetary value, I completely forgot vitality stones are a universal want for awakened. All right, it's about time we continued our journey. Let's go. Khal and Merlin continued to search for the dungeon, encountering a few strong monsters along the way, but nothing remotely as strong as the Earth Golem. We there yet? Khal asked, his tone exhausted. That's the 7th time you've asked in the past 10 minutes, and every time I tell you the same thing. No, we are not there yet. Merlin replied. I'm getting quite restless. We've been in the plains for a few hours now, but still can't find it. And though we're obtaining a few points from killing monsters, it's not enough since the others are just eliminating students, which yields far more points. 1. Khal Dragul, 52,488 4. Knight Shao, 24,638 8. Martial God, 19,225 2. Rose Dragul, 38,325. Darwin, 22,749. St. Mike, 18,148 3. Marek Stormvale, 28,274 6. Poison Master, 20,685 10. Jiang Ashbourne, 16,924 3. Reagan Helstien, 26,337. Serene Azul, 20,426. I'm barely even the top 10 now. Why are so many of these aliases so corny? Wait, I think I found something. Merlin stopped in her tracks, staring intently at the map. Khal walked over to her, looking over her shoulder at the map. What is it? Merlin studied the map closely, pulling it up to her face and tilting it for a better look. I think we're standing above the dungeon. They both looked down, staring at the ground beneath them. The ground was seemingly no different from the rest of the grassy plain. I want to try something, so back up a little. Khal, extending his arm in front of Merlin. Merlin got out the way, standing a few feet away from Khal. Khal pulled his fist back with a serious expression, his veins bulging, aiming at the ground. Boom! His fist slammed into the ground, shattering the earth and sending rubble flying in all directions. Khal raised his hand, blood dripping from his knuckles. Pain resist +1 muscle strength +1. There's something hard down there. Real hard. Beneath the rubble, a flat blue stone lay untouched, embedded deeper in the ground. Not a scratch on it from Khal's blow. Let's remove the rubble, and a bright green light shone from the corner of Khal's eye. Khal turned his head to see Merlin using an ability on his wound. The light faded, and so did Khal's wound. Merlin stood back, looking up at Khal. You were saying? Khal pulled back his arm, shifting his gaze back to the ground. I was saying we should remove the rubble and see what the rock beneath it is. After a few minutes of digging up all the soil, the rock could fully be seen, its octagon shape stretching roughly 20 foot round, a slack line passing right through it. Khal stood over it, rubbing his chin, lost in thought. What is it? Do you know what it is? Merlin asked, her eyes filled with curiosity. If I'm not wrong, this should be bedrock. When the Earth's surface expanded over 2 millennia ago, many new resources were found and many old had changed drastically. Bedrock was one of them. Just a small piece of it would take at least a level 80 expert to excavate it. Why would the Breachers Association use such a huge slab to block the entrance of a C-class rift dungeon? Merlin clenched her fist, her hands trembling, her expression bleak. If what you said is true, and this is bedrock, then there is no way we're getting in. Khal shoved his hands into his hoodie's pockets, turning around and walking away. Yeah, with our current power, it would be like trying to break open an iron lock with a toothpick. Merlin turned to Khal, reaching her hand out, a worried look on her face. Just wait a second, maybe a scary... A loud scratching sound came from the slab of bedrock. Khal and Merlin quickly turned towards it to see what was happening. Unbothered by either of them, slowly but surely, it was opening as. Khal walked back towards it, Merlin waiting until he passed her before following suit. Boom! It stopped, leaving behind a massive octagon-shaped hole. Khal had stopped before it, Merlin bouncing into his back from his sudden stop. He leaned over, looking into the hole. The sides were filled with torches, lighting up the entrance of the dungeon. But even so, the bottom could not be seen from how deep it was. We did nothing to it, but it just opened. It's as if someone is inviting us in. I don't think we should go down there. Whatever opened up the entrance, I doubt has any good intentions. Merlin came from behind him, standing at the edge of the entrance. I'm going down there. Khal stared at her with an annoyed expression. Why would you want to go down there, knowing you would be in danger? Merlin kept staring into the dungeon, biting her lip. Whoosh! She jumped down into the dungeon. Slap! Khal slammed his hand onto his face, letting out an exasperated sigh. Down we go, I guess. Khal placed his hands into his hoodie's pockets. Whoosh! Jumping into the dungeon. Merlin floated down into the dungeon, landing on her feet. Before her was a more narrow path of gray brick walls and sleek red floors, torches hanging from the walls, brightening the path ahead. Merlin heard noises above her and quickly looked to see what it was. She saw something falling towards her. Before she could make it out, she quickly lifted her hands. Float. Before whatever it was could hit her, the skill stopped it right above her. It was Khal, floating above her with his usual nonchalant gaze. Can you put me down? Merlin, visibly frustrated, placed him onto the ground. Are you insane? Didn't you say you weren't coming? And how did you even know I didn't? Khal turned to the dungeon's second entrance, avoiding Merlin's gaze. One at a time. Firstly, yes and yes, I am. Secondly, I never had any intention of hoping you would catch me. I was just fine. Lastly, as your teammate, I'm not going to let you explore a dangerous dungeon by yourself. Besides, you probably know about some sort of treasure's location. I just want to rob you. I'm, of course, not going to tell you that. Merlin held her head down, tugging her staff close to her chest, her expression dropping to sadness. Khal walked off deeper into the dungeon, stopping and turning toward Merlin. Hey, are you coming? I don't have all day. Merlin looked up, a slight smile tugging at her lips. Yeah, I'm coming. She ran up towards him, Khal turning around, continuing on into the dungeon. Meanwhile, back at the Secret Realm's operating room, the entire area was in panic. Sir, that's another student dead. An official shouted. The screen in front of him flickered red. The other officials were also in panic, the entire room filled with arguments. Principal Liu, principal of Ravenmoor Academy. He stood up from his seat, his face filled with anger as he stared at the screen before him. The names of students disappearing one by one. Students from every school are being eliminated, but why are they dying instead of being teleported out? One of the officials ran up to him in panic, 2 sheets of papers in hand. Sir, after running multiple binary searches on the Secret Realms program, we found a loophole that is making the system's safeguarding mechanism not be able to stop an attack it deems strong enough to kill said person instantly. Principal Liu grabbed him by his shirt, lifting him off the ground, his expression filled with rage. What did you just say to me? You idiots had one job, and you're telling me you messed that up, and at the cost of our students' lives. The official, visibly scared, shook his head in disagreement. This wasn't us, sir. Someone embedded a virus into the program, and at the moment it just keeps getting worse. At this point, it won't be long before the safeguard is destroyed altogether. Fwoosh boom! Liu threw him into the screen, shattering it and knocking him out instantly. The room fell silent, the officials looking back at Liu, fear in their gazes. Someone get in touch with the principals of the other schools. Liu yelled, the officials quickly scattering out of the room. Principal Liu, for some reason, 3 students that weren't killed or eliminated suddenly left the secret realm. An official, still sitting, staring at his computer. I have no time to worry about a few students when hundreds have already died. Liu walked off, exiting the room, his gaze filled with rage. Someone find me Charles. Khal and Merlin continued into the dungeon, trekking through the entrance halls. Rows of torches lined the walls, their flames casting long shadows that danced over the cracked stone. The air was thick with the scent of dust, mildew, and age, a musty, century-old smell that clung to every breath. Khal looked over at Merlin, tugging her staff, her expression serious. So, you mind telling me why you're so hell-bent on excavating this dungeon? Merlin glanced at Khal, frustration flickering in her eyes, before turning her attention back ahead. I'm not hell-bent on doing anything. I just want to quickly level up and gain points, and this is the easiest way. Khal, not believing a word coming out of her mouth, raised an eyebrow in suspicion. You say that yet since we entered the dungeon, your whole demeanor has changed. Merlin kept her eyes forward, tightening her grip on her staff. You ever thought maybe I'm just a little agitated from entering a dungeon that's difficulty is much higher than my level? She sped up, walking ahead of Khal, her angry footsteps echoing in the halls. Khal stared at her from behind, lost in thought. I'm starting to get the feeling that whatever it is that she is hiding will eventually affect me in some way. They made it to the end of the hall, standing before them a gigantic door standing over 40 feet tall, its bright red frame and sleek golden handles looming over them. Merlin stood before it, her mouth moving, but the words could not be heard. Khal brushed past her, pulling one of his hands out his pocket and placing it on the door. Wait, we don't know if anything is booby-trapped, Merlin said quickly. Let's inspect it before barging in. Khal didn't respond. Danger sense hasn't activated. It should be fine. Without hesitation, he pressed his palm harder against the surface. Creak. The door groaned and screeched as it slowly opened, revealing a pitch-black chamber beyond, devoid of any visible light source. Khal turned to Merlin with a smug grin. You coming or what? Merlin exhaled sharply, annoyed, and walked up beside him. She raised her hand. Purple lightning. Sparks of crackling violet lightning lit up her palm, casting sharp, flickering shadows across the walls. Together, they stepped into the darkness, Merlin leading the way. Moments after they crossed the threshold, boom, the doors slammed shut behind them, the echo resounding through the chamber. Then, one by one, torches lining the walls burst to life, flames igniting with eerie synchronicity until the entire room was bathed in a dim, flickering glow. Khal and Merlin stood their ground, preparing for any threat to come. The entirety of the chamber had now become visible, revealing a stunning throne room with its golden walls, white ceiling and floors, and a single visibly expensive chandelier overhead, increasing the room's beauty. But what stood out the most was the tens, if not hundreds, of empty suits of armor that stood in front of the throne. This feels more like a boss room than the first section of a dungeon, Khal muttered, walking toward the rows of armored statues. Yeah, and there doesn't seem to be a path leading anywhere else either, Merlin replied, scanning the room. Khal approached one of the suits of armor, closing the distance with narrowed eyes. A chill ran down his spine, the hair on his arms rising. He stopped abruptly, stepping back instinctively. Nothing happened. That's odd. I'm sure danger sense just triggered. He stepped forward again. Once more, that eerie sensation crept over him. And again, when he backed away, it faded. Ah, I see what's happening. Turning to Merlin, Khal spotted her nearing another suit of armor. I wouldn't do that if I were you, he warned. Merlin paused, glancing at him. What is it? Did you figure something out? Yeah. These aren't ordinary suits of armor. They'll attack the moment we get too close, Khal said, his voice calm but firm. And since there's no path forward without passing them, we're going to wake them up eventually. So what do you suppose we do? Merlin asked. Khal walked back over to the suit of armor, staying a safe distance away from it. Well, instead of waiting until we accidentally wake one up and it catches us off guard, we should just let it happen right now. Merlin's eyes widened in surprise, backing away from the suits of armor, taking a defensive stance. You don't mean? Khal flung his right arm back, folding his hand into a fist and bringing it forward with pure force. Yup. Bam. His punch blasted the helmet off one suit of armor. It spun through the air, crashing into others. Thunk. Clang. Clang. The suits began to stir. Metal scraped. Blades hissed from sheaths. They were waking. Try to keep up, Merle. Whoosh! Khal launched himself skyward, summoning his spear mid-air, mana flooding into it. Boom! He slammed down in the center of them, shattering armor on impact. Gripping his spear with both hands, he swung wide. Ching! Steel screamed. The front line split in half. I'm not seeing their level and what exactly they are, which means these things aren't living beings. Purple lightning. PZT. Merlin floated above the enemies, swiftly striking down their numbers with her lightning. Khal ran through their numbers, cutting down everyone in sight. Suddenly, the armored suits began backing away from him, making a circle around him. Huh, what's this? Clang, clang, clang. They simultaneously beat their chests and slamming their swords on the ground. The row of armored suits before Khal began making way for another to pass. This one was headless and much larger than the rest, standing at least 7 foot tall. Its shiny silver armor, tall silver sword, and a shield with the front shaped like a lion's head. Tomb's Guardian LVL-15. If I'm not wrong, this one should be a living armor. A soul that lives inside an armor seems to be the leader of this fleet. In an apparent attempt to mock Khal, it started thudding its sword against its shield. Khal stood tall, holding a spear before him. Don't be hasty. I'm coming. Whoosh! Khal charged, thrusting his spear forward, mana seeping from the blade. Ching! His attack is blocked by the living armor's shield. But Khal didn't stop his charge, relentlessly thrusting his spear against its shield in an attempt to put it off balance. Clang! 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 Though the living armor was on the defensive, it stood its ground, unfazed by Khal's relentless attacks. Damn, this shield is hard. I'm starting to lose steam and my attacks are becoming slower. Vitality increased +1 vitality increased +1 vitality increased +1 bang. The living armor thrust its shield forward, meeting Khal's spear, throwing him off balance. It lifted its sword high above him, bringing it down with brutal force. Shit! Splek! Khal used his right arm to block the sword, allowing the blade to slice through his arm more than 5 inches deep. Cellular regeneration +1, cellular regeneration +1 bone density, +1 bone density, +1 Khal clenched his jaw, rage in his eyes, with the sword lodged in his arm. With his left he seeped mana into his spear, thrusting it forward. At such a close range, the living armor was unable to block. Ching! His spear pierced its chest, sensing danger. The living armor let go of its sword, quickly backing away. Khal held on to the hilt of the sword, letting out a loud groan as he pulled it free. Pain resist +1 pain resist, +1 pain resist, +1 pain resist, +1 pain resist, +1 Khal's wounds slowly began to heal, the bleeding quickly coming to a stop. The living armor, though without eyes, Khal could tell it was glaring at him solely from its posture, the hand that once held a blade folding into an angry fist. A pleased grin crept onto Khal's lips. "Will you want this back?" he asked, waving the sword in front of it. "I don't fancy swords, but I don't mind holding on to it for you. It's quite good." Tomb Guardian's Blade. Bronze plus, level REQ. 15 plus, made using pure silver giant. This blade's sharpness is unparalleled in its rank. Gestiar no, empisat, ejaijar, gra. The living armor screamed, the sound coming from inside its stomach. Fwash! With its shield in front of it, it charged like a deranged bull at Khal. Khal charged forward as well, holding both the sword and spear in hand, his eyes glowing with intent. He looked over at where Merlin was. She was occupied fighting her own battle against the suits of armor. Remote adaptation. Consumed 20 points. Adaptation type. Practical. Blessing. Instantaneous step. Suppressed to F. Acquired temporarily. Teleport instantly to any location within 4 feet of you. This ability can only be used once. The moment I try to attack with a sword, it'll vanish in my inventory. The level restriction won't let me use it, but I don't need to attack with it. I just need it to think I can. Khal tightened his grip on the sword in his right hand. The living armor, expecting an incoming strike, focused on his right side, ready to intercept. In that instant, Khal swung his spear in a wide arc with his left. The living armor, caught off guard, still tried to react and block the unexpected attack. Step! Khal vanished, reappearing behind the armor, his spear's momentum still carrying through its deadly arc. Ching! The strike sliced the living armor in half, sending it collapsing to the ground with a thud, the rest of the armored suits following suit, collapsing to the ground with the death of their leader. Merlin flew down onto the ground, landing behind Khal, who was staring intently at the living armor. That's weird. I didn't receive a defeated notification. Khal crouched beside the upper half of the armor, peering inside. Nestled within, just above the point where he struck, was a strange, white creature, starfish-like in shape, its body face down and still. What the hell is this? He reached in, pulling the thing out. As he turned it over, its appearance became clearer, a single, closed eye at its center, with rows of suction cups lining its limbs. Merlin stepped carefully over the scattered suits of armor and stood beside him, her expression twisting with unease. "What is that thing?" she asked, visibly disturbed. "I'm not sure, but I think it was controlling the armor," Khal replied, his gaze narrowing as he felt the creature twitch. Its eye trembled, as if trying to stay shut. Khal poked it once, then again. Nothing. With a frown, he squeezed it tightly. Pop! The eye snapped open, and the creature let out a high-pitched screech of pain. Khal's gaze turned ice-cold. "Seems it's alive." The creature panted, its eye glaring at him with fury. "You disgusting humans! How dare you enter my master's tomb?" Both Khal and Merlin recoiled slightly, surprised, not just by the voice, but the fact that the creature had no visible mouth. "You will regret this. Put me down this instant, and I might consider sparing your lives." Khal ignored the threat and squeezed again. The creature shrieked. "I have a few questions," Khal said flatly. "And first off, you're going to answer them honestly once I let you go, right?" The creature hesitated, trembling. "Fine, I'll talk. Just stop squeezing." Khal released his grip. He and Merlin stared down at it with intense scrutiny. "You may have bested me this time, human," the creature growled. "But next time I'll destroy why I poke." "Shut up," Khal said, jabbing its eye again. "Tell me where the next section of the dungeon is." The creature whimpered, rubbing its eye with a suction limb. "Dungeon? What the hell are you talking about?" Khal's voice grew firmer. "What do you think I'm talking about? I want to know where the next section is. I don't have time to waste." The creature looked around, confused and frustrated. "Listen well, you foul creature," it said. "This so-called dungeon you speak of, I know nothing of it. This place is no dungeon. It's a tomb, the resting place of my master." Khal stared at the creature, confused. "Tomb? What are you talking about? Isn't this an unexplored dungeon?" The creature gazed at Khal, rage in its eye. "Did you not just hear me? Are you deaf? I just said it's a tomb. I had no information prior to entering here. Merle is the one that told me this was a dungeon. If she was lying about what was down here, what was so important to make her want to hide such useless information? And what else could she be hiding from me?" Khal turned to Merlin, a look of disappointment in his gaze. Merlin shook her head. "I didn't know it was a tomb. The information on the map and the information my mother gave me all stated that this was a dungeon. I have no reason to want to hide such piece of information." Khal turned back around, his gaze returning to the creature, lost in thought. "I don't believe a word coming out of her mouth. So where exactly is your master's grave? I'm sure he wouldn't mind us ravaging around his belongings a bit." The creature flung itself up, standing on top of Khal's palm, pure hatred in its gaze. "Do whatever you want of me. You can kill me or torture me. I don't care, but what I won't do, what I will never do, is allow filthy, thieving humans like yourselves to ransack my master's grave." Khal stared coldly at the creature, murderous intent seeping from his gaze. But even so, the creature didn't back down, staring back into Khal's eyes, unfazed by his unspoken threat. Khal took a deep breath before sighing. "All right then, be that way. I'll just have to find it myself." Merlin, shocked by Khal's words, stared at him with confusion, her tone serious. "What do you mean by be that way? He has information we need on how to move on from here. You should be pulling its suckers off one by one until he talks." Khal stood up, holding onto the creature. It flung around, struggling to get free and shouting expletives. "I still have some use for him. I might seem heartless, but I'm not going to just straight up torture the guy. Use as you have, but obviously won't give me. I know you know a lot more about where this is, but for some reason you're not telling me. I bet you'd love to get information on how to find the grave. Khal stepped over the piles of armor, making his way to the throne. Merlin followed behind, a glint of sadness in her eyes. They made it to the throne, climbing up the stairs, and there was the throne. At least 9 feet tall, its clean red cushions and golden frame. For a tomb, this place is quite clean. Merle immediately began searching the wall behind the throne for a way to the tomb owner's grave. Put me down, you ingrate human. I am a proud member of the Patrick race. How dare you treat me this way? The creature screamed, moving around in Khal's hand. Khal lifted him up to his face, a slight smile tugging at his lips. Did you just say, your race is called Patrick? The creature stared at him, confused by the question. Yeah, in your language, that's what my people are called. Khal covered his mouth, hiding his laugh at the absurdity. Well, for now on, I'll call you Pat. Pat fidgeted vigorously, trying his best to break free. I'm not your pet or someone you have a right to name. I have no name, and even if I did, I wouldn't allow you to know it. Pat it is. Khal shoved him inside his sweater pocket, holding him down. Khal walked over to the throne, staring intently at it, trying to find a clue. This chair, it's giving me an odd feeling. Khal reached out to the throne, placing his hand on it, and the second he did, the light in his eyes faded. Merlin looked back at him, noticing him just standing there, unresponsive. Khal, are you okay? She called, but to no avail. Don't waste your breath. He can't hear you now. Pat crawled out of Khal's pocket, jumping down face first on the ground. What do you mean he can't hear me? What did you do to him? Pat stood up, brushing himself off. Me, I didn't do a thing. If you want to blame someone, blame him for touching the throne. He continued. Once he did, his consciousness was sucked into my master's last contingency plan in the case of his death. If he lives, he will be able to receive my master's inheritance. But if he dies, well, he dies. Merlin walked over to him, her hands seeping mana, her eyes oozing murderous intent. No, if he dies, you die. Khal slowly opened his eyes. A blinding white light flooded his vision, obscuring everything. As it began to fade, he found himself standing in an endless, white void, silent, empty, surreal. Where the hell am I? I just touched the throne, and then, suddenly, I'm here. My world was once peaceful. The voice was unfamiliar masculine, and it echoed directly inside Khal's mind. Startled, Khal immediately raised his guard, trying to summon his spear, but nothing happened. His hand remained empty. If only I had turned that woman down. Maybe my world wouldn't have met such a cruel fate. The white space around him began to ripple, the overwhelming whiteness bleeding into colors. The world twisted and warped, as if reality itself was being painted around him. Khal found himself back in the throne room, but it was different now. No longer ancient and lifeless, it brimmed with splendor and vitality. Guards stood in orderly rows along the sides of the hall, their armor gleaming beneath the radiant light. Seated on the throne was a middle-aged man, muscular, with short black hair, a bushy beard, and light blue eyes. He wore a full set of dark armor, and a tall red cape draped behind him. He sat with quiet authority, his expression blank as he leaned his head against one hand, elbow resting on the throne's arm. Before him, a woman in a green dress knelt, her face strangely obscured, blacked out, preventing Khal from seeing her face. Supreme Ruler Hagen of the Saint Guard world, the woman said, her voice trembling, I humbly ask you, please save my people. Hagen stared down at her, annoyance flickering in his single visible eye. Madam, he replied, I have no reason to interfere in a war between two separate worlds. I made a vow long ago. The only rifts my people will cross are those that lead to dead worlds or ones inhabited solely by non-sentient life. The woman bowed even lower, her tone pleading, heavy with despair. Please, I beg you, Supreme Ruler. They'll slaughter my people. They're only targeting human-inhabited worlds specifically. Once mine falls, yours will be next. Gasps echoed through the hall, followed by murmurs. Hagen raised his hand, and curled it into a fist. The room fell silent at once. "Who are these people?" he asked. "And what do you mean they're hunting humans?" The woman looked up, wiping tears from her eyes. "They're monsters, things that crave human flesh and the taste of human souls. They may look like us, but they aren't. Not even close. And once they are finished with my world, I have no doubt they'll come for yours." Hagen fell silent, lost in thought for a long moment. "Leave for now," he finally said. "I must reflect on this. Return tomorrow, and I will give you my answer." The room shifted once more, fading back into the white void. Khal stood silently, his hand resting on his chin, deep in thought. "If I'm not wrong, these must be the tomb owner's memories. I have so many questions. Did his world fall to those man-eating monsters? Or was something else behind it? And why was I able to see everyone else's face, except that woman's? Even her name was censored. We accepted her proposal." The voice echoed in Khal's mind again. It was Hagen's voice, calm but heavy with regret. "We joined forces to stop the invasion of the Skinwalkers for good, to ensure they wouldn't be able to terrorize another world." There was a pause. But were they really Skinwalkers? When we found out for sure, it was already too late. The void warped again, the white light peeling away to reveal a chaotic battlefield. Thousands of soldiers filled the horizon, some fighting, many already fallen. At the front stood Hagen, his dark armor soaked in blood, his expression stone-cold. He leaned on a spear planted firmly into the blood-soaked earth. Before him, an armless man, kneeling, surrounded by corpses. Despite the carnage, the dying man's gaze remained calm, devoid of hatred, even in the face of death. "Why help that woman?" the man asked weakly. "Do you not know what she is?" Hagen's eyes flared with fury. "Don't you dare speak to me, you fiend," he spat. "You may have fooled the other human-populated worlds you've slithered into, but that pathetic victim card won't work on me." The man stared at Hagen, confused by his words. Slowly, he lowered his head. "I see. So that's what she told you," he muttered. "You fool, you've doomed your people." Hagen yanked his spear from the ground, pointing at the man, rage burning in his eyes. "From where I stand, it looks like I saved my people and countless others from monsters like you. Repent for the human souls you've devoured." The man gave a weak shake of his head, the light in his eyes beginning to fade. "Souls we've consumed? We were hunting that woman for the worlds she's destroyed. When we finally built a force strong enough to stop her, your people slaughtered us." His voice wavered, but his words hit like thunder. "Look around you. For monsters accused of eating souls, why are all your deceased bodies still intact? And ask yourself this, where is S Army? The one that stood beside your men just moments ago?" Hagen's gaze swept across the battlefield. His fallen soldiers, intact. Not a single body mutilated. No signs of soul devouring. More importantly, S forces gone. Not a trace left behind. A cold chill ran down his spine. Beads of sweat formed on his brow. What's going on?" The dying soldier looked at Hagen one last time, eyes half-lidded with sorrow. "You fool! You've doomed us all." Thud! His body collapsed, lifeless. Hagen stood frozen, staring at the corpse, his hands trembling, the weight of it all crashing down. "What have I done?" The world shattered around Khal, fading back into the endless white void. Khal sat on the floor, processing everything he had just witnessed, his expression slowly twisting into anger. Footsteps echoed in the void. He lifted his head and clenched his jaw at the sight. "Hagen." He approached slowly, wearing a solemn expression, his eyes distant as he looked past Khal. "It's rage-inducing, isn't it?" he said, voice heavy. "To place your trust in someone, only to realize they were the very evil you were trying to protect them from. I'd show you more, but I'm afraid I'd only be putting you in even more danger." Khal stood, his gaze locked on Hagen. "You're mistaken," he said coldly. "I'm not angry because that woman fooled you. I'm angry that you let her fool you." He took a step forward. "How can you call yourself a leader when you blindly believe the words of a stranger from another world and lead your people into an all-out war? Because of it?" Khal's voice sharpened. "If you ask me, you're pathetic." Hagen blinked, stunned, then unexpectedly burst into laughter. Khal frowned, confused. Was this a joke to him? But the laughter faded, and Hagen's face sank into a look of sorrow. "You're right," he said quietly. "So many have come here before you. Every one of them saw my memories, then told me what I wanted to hear, just to earn my inheritance." He looked directly at Khal now, sincerity playing on his face. "But you're the first to tell me what I needed to hear." His eyes fell to the floor. "It was my fault." Khal's anger faded, his expression cooling into his familiar icy calm. "Listen, I didn't come here to hear your sob story. I don't even know why you pulled me in here. Since I've impressed you so much, why don't you tell me where you're buried, so I can take what I can and get out of this tomb already?" Khal placed his hands into his pockets. "I'm burning enough time as it is." Hagen's tone shifted, becoming serious. Yes, my treasures, I'll soon get to that. But first, I should tell you the reason why I pulled you in here." Khal stayed silent, sensing the weight behind his words. "I didn't kill the others before you out of something as petty as hatred," Hagen said. "I killed them because they saw her." Khal's face hardened. His eyes narrowed. "I didn't even know he killed the others before me. The woman you glimpsed in my memories, she's powerful beyond comprehension. So powerful that even in my own memories, I can't recall her name or face. Also, if anyone beneath her in strength becomes aware of her existence, she'll know, and she'll come from them to keep her identity hidden." A bead of sweat slid down Khal's cheek. His voice was low. "If that's the risk, why show me? Are you trying to send her to lead her to my own world?" Khal clenched his fist, rage filling his gaze. Hagen looked up and let out a tired breath. "Of course not. It's because it doesn't matter anymore. Sooner or later, she'll find your world. And when she does, it'll end like she ended mine." He extended his hand. "What I'm looking for is someone strong enough to fight. Strong-willed enough to carry my inheritance to try and stop what's coming." Khal stayed silent for a moment, processing everything before he spoke. His voice steady. "Even if I agree to work with you, what exactly is your inheritance, and what benefits could it bring me?" In Hagen's palm, a sphere of white light flickered into being, shifting in a searing flame. "What I can offer you is this," he continued. "You're skilled. Despite your F-rank blessing, you beat Little White, and you're quite adept at the spear." He held Khal's gaze. "You're the perfect candidate to inherit my divine grade blessing, Solar God Spearman." Khal's eyes widened, his thoughts running rampant. A divine grade blessing? The offer is quite tempting. Even among all the experts around the world, only a few have a divine grade blessing. Though the line between SS and divine seems small, the gap is simply incomprehensibly wide. If I had a divine blessing, I could gain incredible power instantly. Still, it's simply nothing compared to what adapt could be. Khal stared into Hagen's eyes, shaking his head. "No, I'll be fine. Just get me out of here. I'll handle what's to come on my own." The void fell silent for a few moments, no word coming from either of them. "Kid, I don't think you understand. This is a divine grade blessing. The transfer will be harmless with zero risks." "What do you mean, no?" Khal let out a sigh, scratching his head. "Look, all right, I just don't want it. I'm good with what I have. I'm not saying I won't protect and fight for my world. Trust me, I will. I'll just do it with my own power." The void fell quiet once more, the flames in Hagen's palm dissipating as he glared at Khal. A bead of sweat ran down Khal's forehead, the tenseness of the situation making him nervous. "Hopefully he doesn't try to force me to switch my blessing. Even with adapt, what can I do against someone that can kill me instantly?" He put his hand down, a slight grin creeping onto his face. "As expected of the person I chose. Fine, I'll respect your wishes. I don't know why, but something is telling me this is for the best." Khal let out a relieved sigh, grabbing his chest. "But I still want to leave you with some good things. Obviously, you won't be able to get any physical items here, so you'll need to go to where my body lays. Little White will lead you the way." Hagen, his tone, "That little guy won't do anything I say." Khal replied, "Don't worry about that. Once you've made it out of here alive, Little White will know my decision." Hagen gave Khal a warm smile and a wave. "You'll be pulled in here once more when you find my body. Maybe then we can have a long chat." Khal's body began to slowly dissipate into white specks of light, his gaze unleaving Hagen, burning with purpose. I must prepare for what's to come. Earth cannot share the same faith. Khal slowly opened his eyes, lifting his hand from the throne. Behind him, a loud argument was underway. "Will you please just wait a second?" Pat shouted, floating helplessly in the air behind him. Merlin stood on the ground, a ball of lightning crackling in her hand, her face twisted with fury. "I'm going to say this once more. How do I get Khal out of that trance without hurting him? And if you say it's impossible one more time, I swear I'll turn you into a side dish." "Put it down, Merle." "I'm fine," Khal said calmly, walking toward them. "See? He's fine." "Wait, what?" Pat yelped in disbelief, flailing in midair as he tried to turn himself around. Merlin immediately released float, and Pat dropped like a stone, smacking face first into the ground with a thud. She rushed to Khal, tugging her staff tightly in one hand and reaching out with the other to touch his arm. "Are you okay?" she asked, her tone soft. Khal stared at her for a moment before politely removing her hand. "I'm fine. There's no need to worry about me." Pat groaned as he pushed himself up from the floor, only to freeze when he saw Khal's expression. His eye widened. How are you still alive? The Master should have destroyed your soul by now." Khal stepped closer to him, a faint grin tugging on his lips as he looked down at Pat with sharp eyes. "You don't need to worry about that." His voice dropped. "Just do your job and show me where Hagen was buried." Little White. Pat stared down at the ground for a moment before kneeling. "It seems my previous master has chosen you to carry out his final wish. If what he seeks is for you to find his burial place, then I have no choice but to oblige." Merlin stood shocked at Pat's new demeanor, her gaze turning over to Khal. "What was it that happened when you touched the throne?" Khal turned his gaze to her before walking away, stuffing his hands into his hoodie's pockets. "What happened?" Pat took Khal and Merlin back to the entrance of the throne room. While passing, Khal glanced at an unfamiliar armor but paid it no mind. Standing before the massive shut doors. "Why bring me back here?" Khal asked. Pat waddled his way over to the door, resting one of his rays on it. "This door works as 2 entrances and 1 exit. Only when I pour my mana into the door will it open to the second entrance, the true tomb of my master." Pat closed his eye and began pouring mana into the door. Bright blue lines began flowing through it, drawing a symbol. In just a few moments, the symbol was outlined perfectly, Hagen sitting on his throne. TSSS. The door cracked open, a wave of cold air blowing out. Boom! The door fully opened, coming to a stop, revealing a dark room. Flick, flick, flick. Torches began to ignite, one by one, slowly brightening the room. By the time it came to a stop, the entire area was bathed in light. In formatted rows stood gigantic statues of Hagen, each over 30 feet tall. The walls were ancient and filled with writing from an unknown language. At the end stood a display holding Hagen's spear and an unknown orange glowing rock. At its center stood Khal's real goal, Hagen's grave. "Let's go," Khal spoke, breaking the tense silence, entering the tomb. Merle followed behind. Pat jumped up onto Khal's leg, holding on with his ray suction cups. Whoosh! The cold air flowing from inside blew at them with force, sending chills down Khal's spine. Cold resistance acquired. Cold resistance plus 1 cold resistance plus 1 cold resistance plus 1 Khal pushed through the icy winds. Pat crawled behind his leg, and Merlin walked just behind him. The cold air subsided, leaving behind a lingering chill. The cold here is supposed to keep my master's body from decomposing. Though he was an Ascension 3, level 90, after a few thousand years, his body was eventually going to start breaking down. So this slows the process, Pat explained, climbing up towards Khal's shoulder. Merlin's eyes brightened with curiosity. "So what you're saying is the Tomb Master's body is still completely intact?" she asked. Pat jumped up onto Khal's shoulder, taking a deep breath before exhaling. "Well, not exactly. To slow the decomposition, I drained all the blood and replaced it with a substance that rapidly lowers body temperature." "Oh!" Merlin's expression sank with sadness. Khal glanced behind him for a split second to check on Merlin, his face becoming serious. "Hey, Pat, tell me, were there any survivors from the previous people that sought out Hagen's inheritance? Excluding those that touched the throne, of course." Pat placed his ray under his eye, thinking, "Not that I can think of. I'm pretty sure I killed them all. Was I just being paranoid?" Khal thought. "Oh yeah, there was one." Khal stopped in his tracks, his expression grim. "Pat, I want you to listen closely and recall everything you can about that day." Pat picked up on Khal's tone and lowered his voice, becoming serious. "It was around 4 years ago. I remember thinking everyone was dead, so I reopened the entrance. Some guy ran out. I figured it wasn't a big deal, but now that I think about it, once every year since then, people in knight armor have been showing up." Khal snuck a peek at Merlin from behind, his eyes glowing with intent. "Hey, Merle, how exactly did you come by the map to this place, if everyone who knew about it is dead?" Merlin stared at the ground for a few moments, then looked into Khal's eyes. "I'm sorry, I don't have a choice." Whoosh! A dark streak shot toward Khal. Sensing the murderous intent, he quickly raised his hand in an attempt to stop it. Splek! Cellular regeneration +1, cellular regeneration +1. It was a blade, shrouded in darkness, wielded by a shadowy figure. Its entire body was cloaked in shadows, concealing its identity. Blood dripped from Khal's hand, which was now gripping the blade. I didn't sense this person at all. Danger sense didn't even activate. If it weren't for my reflexes, I'd be dead right now. Khal clenched his jaw, rage building inside him. Shadow Knight. There's only one Knight family in Raven City that blessing gets passed down through. The Lewin Knight family. Khal tightened his grip on the blade, and, using all his strength, swung the shadowy figure into the air, aiming to slam it into the ground. Whoosh! The blade phased through Khal's hand, slipping free from his grasp. The figure darted off toward Hagen's grave, jumping on top of it. Budum Khal felt a tight pressure in his chest. He collapsed to the ground, clutching his chest as his body shook and sweat poured down. New form of poison resistance acquired. C7W11 resist +1, C7W11 resist +1, C7W11 resist +1, C7W11 resist +1 poison. Khal clenched his jaw, struggling to move. Purple lighting, PZZT boom. Merle's attack struck Khal in the back, sending him crashing into Hagen's grave. Shock resistance acquired. Shock resist. +1 shock resist. +1 the dust settled. Khal slumped against Hagen's grave, his head tilted back toward the ceiling. Despite the impact, the grave itself remained completely untouched. The shadowy figure stepped forward, looking down at Khal. Part of the darkness peeled away, revealing a smug smile, eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Khal sat slumped over the grave, breathing heavily, trying his best to move, but the poison had him paralyzed. The shadowy figure loomed over him, but Khal focused his attention on Merlin, his gaze filled with rage. Her hand was stretched toward him, lightning crackling from her fingertips. C7W11 resist +1, C7W11 resist +1. Damn it, I can't move. I figured she had something up her sleeve, but to think she had a helper, and it's the Lewin family's new generation Shadow Knight, no less. No wonder danger sense didn't trigger. Cough, cough. Khal spat blood onto his hoodie, eyes locked on the ground. C7W11 resist +1. I need to buy time for my body to fully adapt to the poison. Straining. Khal moved his hand onto his stomach, then slowly looked back up, locking eyes with Merlin. Just tell me why. We hold no grudges. So why would you betray me like this? He asked, his voice and glare seething with anger. Before Merlin could answer, the shadowy figure cut in. She doesn't need to give you a reason for shit. You were dumb enough to trust someone you just met, and now you suffer the consequences. It's as simple as that. Khal forced his eyes up at him, clenching his jaw in fury. The darkness slowly faded from the man, revealing a young, silver-haired, blue-eyed figure in full black armor. The crest of a sword piercing the world was emblazoned on his chest. If you could see how pitiful you look right now, why did you betray me? He mocked with a sneer. Die like a man and stop asking bitch questions. Stop it, Renaud. Let's just hurry up and get this over with, Merlin said coldly. Renaud's smile faded as he turned to Merlin. Disgust etched across his face. If it wasn't for the fact that I'm busy, I'd go over there and teach you what it means to shut the fuck up when I'm talking. He stared at Merlin for a few moments before clicking his tongue. Let's get this over with. I've got places to be and people to kill. Renaud turned around, jumping off Hagen's grave and making his way toward the treasure display. He abruptly stopped and turned to Merlin. Oh yeah, I'm going to need you to kill him. He's worthless to us now. Khal's eyes narrowed, jaws clenched, struggling to move his body. C7W, 11 resist, +1. I have a bit of movement now, but it's still not enough. I can maybe catch Merlin off guard and land a killing blow. But then what? I'd be helpless against that other guy. I can only hope for the best. Khal steeled himself, waiting for the right opportunity, but when he glanced over at Merlin, sweat was dripping down her face. Her expression was filled with worry and doubt. That wasn't part of the plan. We were only supposed to take everything and leave. We already have his blood. There's no reason to kill him, she exclaimed, glaring at Renaud. Renaud cupped a hand to his ear, wearing a mocking expression. I don't think you heard me, so let me say it again. I want him dead. Not only does he know the Lewin family is behind this, but for what I've seen while tailing you two, I've really grown to hate this bastard. So hurry the hell up. I don't have all day. Merlin clenched her staff, her frustration boiling over. I came here for my sister, not to kill someone who's done nothing but help me. Renaud's patience frayed. He clenched his jaw and tapped his dagger against his leg, rhythmically and with growing force. Fine, I'll do it myself. I don't usually deal with trash, but it seems I don't have a choice. Merlin's stance didn't change. Her voice remained firm. Whether I do it or you do it, it doesn't matter. We don't have to shut up, bitch. PZZT. Electricity surged through Merlin's head, sending her crashing to the ground with a painful scream. Renaud stood holding a glowing blue stone, pouring mana into it. Your voice is getting so annoying. A filthy little mage like you should be grateful the family even keeps you around. If it weren't for your skills, you would have been discarded a long time ago. Khal stared down at Merle, her screams deafening. His expression twisted with rage. Why am I so angry? Is it because she just refused to kill me? No. She put me in this position knowing she'd leave me behind with nothing. I find it pathetic for her to suddenly grow a conscience. So then, why am I angry? A memory surfaced, a framed photo of him as a child, smiling between a woman and a man. Their faces had been violently scratched out. That's it. That's who he reminds me of. That's why I'm angry. I truly hate people like him. People who treat others like toys and throw them away when they're done, Khal muttered. Renaud stopped pouring mana into the rock and tilted his head to look past the grave. What are you mumbling about over there, little buddy? His eyes narrowed as Khal slowly rose to his feet. Impossible, Renaud muttered. I hit you with a massive dose of a level 20 suicide bee's venom. You shouldn't even be twitching. Your guts should feel like they're caving in. Khal began to walk toward him, dragging his right foot, his head low. Renaud pointed his dagger at him, half smiling. Your willpower's impressive. I don't think even I could move after that. But so what? You're still dead. Khal didn't respond. He kept limping forward. Renaud's smirk faded. His confusion deepened. You're one stubborn fool. He raised the dagger overhead, grinning again. Die like the filth you are. I've only got a few moments before my body fully adapts to the poison. Until then, I need to use every ounce of control I have and strike when he least expects it. Swish! Renaud hurled the dagger with precision, aiming for Khal's skull. Khal tensed. Just before the blade could hit, he ducked. In a blur of motion, he charged forward, pain flaring through every nerve. Pain resist +1, pain resist +1, C7W, 11 resist, +1, C7W, 11 resist, +1, C7W, 11 resist, +1. Khal yanked his spear from his inventory, jaw clenched. He thrust forward, aiming straight for Renaud's neck. FLM, human trash like you should just die. Ching! The spear struck, but stopped against a shimmering shield. Renaud's eyes widened, stunned by the sudden attack. Sweat trailed down his temple. Khal pushed with everything he had, trying to drive the spear through, but the barrier held. Renauld snapped out of his daze, rage contorting his face. "You little bastard," he hissed. "A sneak attack? Really?" He pulled back his fist and slammed it into Khal's face. Bam! Khal flew backward, landing hard. His spear skidded across the ground. Dazed, he clenched his jaw and glared up at Renauld. Renauld stood over him and began stomping him repeatedly, his face twisted with fury. "Bam, bam, bam. Fix your eyes, you piece of shit. I'm a level 15 Shadow Knight. A bastard like you should get trampled on quietly. How dare you attack me? Bone density plus 1 bone density plus 1 increased skin density acquired. Skin density plus 1 skin density plus 1 blunt force resist plus 1 blunt force resist plus 1 blunt force resist plus 1 cellular regeneration plus 1 cellular regeneration plus 1 behind the constant hits." Khal couldn't help but smile at the sound of the system notifications. The pain was very minimal, but the benefit was plentiful. "If I'm not careful, this power is going to turn me into a masochist." Huff, who puff. Renauld stood over Khal, panting, one foot pressed against his chest as Khal lay motionless, paralyzed by the poison. What the hell is this guy made of? Despite Renould's relentless attacks, Khal bore only slight injuries, his bitter expression unwavering. If looks could kill, Renauld would have dropped dead on the spot. Just a bit longer, Khal thought, his gaze locked on Renauld. Renauld lifted his foot off Khal, glaring down at him before letting out a twisted smile. "You're a lot more resilient than expected. But so what? The moment my poison hit your bloodstream, you were already finished." He continued casually, "Still, it'll be a lot more fun watching Merlin wake up and struggle to kill you herself." With a chuckle, he walked over and retrieved his thrown dagger, then turned back toward the display of treasures, standing before it with a pleased grin. "You know, the Leywa Knights were the first to discover this tomb. We originally owned the rights to the D-rank rift, and that's when we found it. This ridiculous treasure no one ever expected to be buried in a low-rank rift. But because of the level 15 entry cap and how hard the tomb actually is, we couldn't clear it. Eventually, the Breachers Association took the rights from us." He went on. "The family figured the association wouldn't bother digging deep into the rift. They'd either use it as a training ground or an EXP farm for rookies. So we improvised. We buried the tomb's entrance and waited for a chance to come back. But surprise, he grinned. They scrapped the whole thing and turned it into part of the university's entrance exam secret realm. That complicated everything. We couldn't just send in anyone under level 16. They need to be graduating from a school to even qualify. And we couldn't exactly tell the association what was hidden here, or they'd have taken it for themselves." Khal finally spoke, his voice sharp with sarcasm. "Let me guess. So the plan became breaking into the exam each year and hoping to trick someone strong enough to help you clear the tomb, and you failed every time." Renauld turned to him, a smug grin on his face. "Yup, until now. The original plan this time around was to trick a Khal Dragul and take him out when the job was done. But seeing his personality in person, and how he's always with his twin sister, when only 3 people can enter this dungeon, we knew it'd be impossible to fool him. But then you showed up. Like everyone else, I thought you were just some idiot riding on your family's name. But Merlin used her gift and told me you were actually insanely strong. I was skeptical at first, but seeing your results during the selection convinced me. To make sure no one would know who I was, I had long enrolled under a fake name, and so it was easy enough to score just enough to pass without drawing attention. From there, all I had to do was hide in Merlin's shadow and wait for the right moment to strike, without you even knowing I existed." Khal's expression hardened with anger. "Why the hell are you telling me all this?" Renauld turned back to the display, pulling out his dagger and pointing it toward the center. "Does it even matter? You're going to die anyway. I don't see why I shouldn't tell you." He chuckled. "And now, thanks to you, after years of trying to break in here, we've finally obtained the Genesis Shard." Khal's eyes narrowed. "So that's what they're after? Who would have thought a Genesis Shard would be here? Everything in the world holds a price tag, except for certain items. A Genesis shard is one of them. Though a person's blessing is determined the moment they awaken, a Genesis shard gives a 50% chance to raise the grade of that blessing during ascension. Ascension occurs when someone breaks the level 100 threshold, causing their level to reset to 1, but all stats are retained and even multiplied. Throughout all of Earth's history, only a few have become Ascension second order, and only a handful reach the third order. Suddenly, a sharp, stabbing pain tore through the left side of Khal's abdomen. His jaw clenched from the intensity as the throbbing grew. Though his body was still mostly paralyzed, something inside was shifting. What the hell is this? This isn't the poison. It feels like something inside me is ripping apart to make room. The pain gradually faded, replaced by a tingling sensation. Then, Khal felt it. The paralysis was lifting. Little by little, control was returning to his limbs. Mutation occurred from constant strain. Toxic gland stores and neutralizes poisons using enzymes or modified antibodies. A mutation? That's new. I do remember the system saying my body could mutate under extreme conditions, but it never actually happened before, so I forgot all about it. Khal's blood still stained Reynolds' dagger. With a smirk, Reynolds raised it overhead and flicked it against the display glass. A loud sizzle followed as Khal's blood burned through it, melting the glass away. Who would have thought you'd be the one to gain his inheritance? Reynolds muttered, stepping closer to the shard, ignoring the spear. So many of our people died trying to get it, and yet he chooses some F-grade trash. But no worries. I'll make sure to take good care of his stuff. Khal slowly began rising to his feet, most of the poison in his system now neutralized. How exactly did you all know the tomb's owner left an inheritance? Khal asked, his voice steady as he tried to move unnoticed. It's not like he advertised this place. On the contrary, Reynolds said. He did. You didn't notice since you were too busy interrogating that waste, but on the walls of the tomb's entrance, there are carvings written in the tongue of his civilization. Pretty much spells out everything. His resting place, his power, and the reward for whoever reaches the end. He continued, reaching toward the glowing shard. That's how we knew what was here. Khal stood upright, steadying himself and preparing to strike while Reynolds was distracted. Reynolds' hand closed around the Genesis shard, lifting it from its pedestal with reverence. Truly amazing, he whispered. To think I'd actually be the one to hold something this rare. Remote adaptation. Choose the amount of adaptive points and the form the adaptation will take. 92, combat defense practical. In terms of strength, I have the advantage. He's just too slippery and fast, so there's no need for me to choose combat. I also don't need to fear his poison anymore, so defense isn't needed. Consume 60 points for a practical blessing. Calculating danger. Selecting suitable practical ability. Process complete. Blessing. Bane of Shadows, D rank, acquired temporarily. Enables the wielder to see through darkness, whilst darkness stays away from you. But because of this, you attract too much light and will die within contact of sunlight. Khal read the skill's description with a confused expression. The abilities given by the system are so detailed, and besides Flame Tyrant Body, are practically only useful to me. Still, with this, I should be able to stop his shadow skills. Reynolds turned just then, a wide grin stretched across his face. But it vanished the moment he saw Khal standing tall. You really don't want to give up, do you? Reynolds sneered. Your stomach must feel like it's about to fall out. Why don't you lie back down and wait for your time come? You talk too much, Khal replied coldly. Fwoosh! Khal dashed forward, his fist clenched tight, footsteps thundering through the tomb. His eyes burned with intensity. TCH. Reynolds clicked his tongue, slipping the Genesis shard into his inventory before melting into the shadows. But Khal's eyes glowed bright. I see you. With Bane of Shadows active, Reynolds' stealth was useless. Khal tracked him easily. His movements gave away his intent. He's circling left to flank me. The little shit's afraid to face me head-on. Reynolds moved with precision, certain of his advantage. No way he can see me. Not a chance. Even a B rank with a 40 INT stat would struggle to detect me. He's just a strength-based F rank reject. Both close the gap. Khal's fist wound back to strike, Renault's dagger gleaming as he smirked. Then whoosh. Renault shot upward from the shadows in front of Khal, confused. What the? Bam! Khal's punch landed, but a familiar invisible barrier absorbed the blow. Even so, the impact forced Renault back, stumbling nearly to the floor. He caught himself just in time, his eyes blazing with fury. "What did you do to me?" he hissed, voice sharp and venomous. Khal smirked, settling into a fighting stance. "So darkness really avoids me now. I didn't get to punch him with my full strength because I didn't expect him to just jump out, but that won't happen again. Why don't you come find out?" he said, taunting. Renault bit in his lip, hard. Blood dripped down as his rage boiled over. Whoosh! He charged again, darkness erupting from his body like a storm. Bam! 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 Khal's blows echoed, his fist continuously slamming into Renault's barrier. Renault was left helpless. Every time he tried to flee into the shadows to launch a sneak attack, he'd be expelled the moment he got too close. Even cloaking himself or using his Shadow Knight techniques was impossible in Khal's presence. Renault finally gained some distance and fled a few feet away, panting. Khal faced him with a cold expression, steam sizzling off his fist from the friction of his strikes. "What's going on?" Renault thought, his face twisted in frustration. "I can't even fight back. My abilities keep getting canceled or won't activate when I'm near him. If it weren't for the talisman the Elder gave me, I'd already be dead." Khal cooled off his fists with a quick flick of his hands, revealing bruised knuckles that were already beginning to heal. "That damn barrier is such a pain. I'm hitting it with everything I've got, but I can't make a dent. And it looks like my adaptation mastery is still too low to gain something strong enough to break through." He shifted his left leg back, and without giving Renault a chance to recover, he charged again. Renault clenched his jaw, retreating into the darkness, trying to create room between him and Khal. Bam, bam, boom, the noise from their fight had woken up Merlin. She slowly lifted her head up off the ground, groaning and rubbing her head. She picked up her hat that lay next to her, placing on her head. Whoosh! A loud noise came from where Khal and Renault were fighting once more. Merlin quickly shifted her gaze to over there, seeing Renault at a huge disadvantage. She slowly stood to her feet. "Damn it, I told you we should just leave him be and get out of here." She regained her balance, gazing at them. "Though I don't want to help him. It's not like a choice. It's my sister or him." Renault fell to the ground, a frustrated look on his face because he couldn't enter the darkness and escape. Khal stood over him, his expression cold, his eyes glowing with murderous intent. This situation brings back such good memories. Khal lifted his foot and started to stomp on Renault, the barrier shielding him, but Khal didn't ease up. He kept pouring mana into his leg and kept going. Creak! The barrier cracked slightly. Renault's frustration became fear. He tried to fight back, but noticed he dropped his dagger a few feet away from him. Shit! Bam! Khal kept stomping, the barrier breaking more and more. "Finally, you arrogant bastard. Finally you'll get what's coming to you." The hair on Khal's body began to rise, a mild ringing sound building in his head. He could hear the sparking of electricity behind him. "Damn it, Merlin!" Purple lightning. Khal quickly dodged to the side to avoid the attack. But even so, the lightning changed course and flew straight into him. PZZT boom. The blast sent Khal flying, skidding across the ground before slamming hard into the wall. Shock resist +1 shock resist +1 shock resist +1 pain resist +1 pain resist +1 muscle strength +1 muscle strength +1 mana +1 mana +1 mana sense +1 mana sense +1 mana sense +1 behind a cloud of dust. Khal laid slumped against the wall, lightning sparking off his body, struggling to stand back on his feet. Damn, that hurts. That did way more damage than expected. Why did it do so much damage to me? It was even able to change its course. A realization popped into Khal's head, his eyes narrowing in surprise. Light? My body right now is extremely weak against light, and because it also attracts light, her attack was pulled towards me. The dust cloud dispersed, revealing Khal, his expression frustrated, lightning still sparking of his body. Renaud, still lying on the floor, stared at Khal with a confused expression. He's seemingly highly immune to my trademark poison and can nullify my blessing, but now he's having such a strong reaction to just an okay ability. Merlin, her hands trembling as she stared at Khal, conflicted. She bit down on her lip, regaining her composure. Renaud raised himself back up to his feet, a wide grin on his face. I see what's going on. Not doing so good with light, are you? I don't know what changed from a few minutes ago, but while we fought, you not only avoided getting too close to the torches and staying out of too much direct light, but since I was doing the same, I figured you were following me, but now I see that light is somehow harmful to you now. Perceptive bastard, Khal thought. Since I adapted Bane of Shadows while Merlin was knocked out, it didn't consider her a variable, and now things are going to get a bit tricky. Khal looked over at Merlin, seeing her trembling hands and frustrated expression. She was obviously showing doubt over the entire situation. Or will it? Khal ignored Renaud, keeping his focus on Merlin. I hold no grudge with you, Merlin. Stay out of this. You already stated you don't want to fight. If you keep interfering, I will have no choice but to also view you as an enemy. His tone, dark, his glare while he spoke, menacing. Merlin looked down at the ground, tugging her staff, before looking back up at Khal, her expression resolute, unfazed by his threat. I'm sorry, but that's just not going to happen. My sister failed to enter Ascension and is now in a life-threatening state. Without the family head's help, she will die in a few months, and the only way to gain his help is if I make sure the Genesis shard returns with Renaud. Renaud laughed, walking over to Merlin and slinging his hand over her neck. You heard the girl. Now stop begging for your life and start begging me to end it. What I have in store for you will make you wish I killed you. Khal ignored Renaud's taunts. Both his and Merlin's gazes locked together. Khal broke his gaze, letting out an exasperated sigh. So be it. If this is how you stand, let us say no more words. Khal lifted his fist before his face, preparing for what's to come. In all honesty, even after all she's done, I have no urge to kill her. I actually think it's quite poetic to put your life on the line for someone you care about. But still, Khal's expression became dark, mana seeping out of his body. Just as how she would do anything for another, I will do whatever it is for myself, no matter how selfish and no matter who I hurt. That is the mindset I have always had and will always have. So no matter who it is, as long as you threaten my life, then I will take yours.